Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the strangest FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. These are games that take bizarre ideas, unusual mechanics, and completely unexpected concepts, then somehow turn them into experiences that are genuinely fun to play. Some of these sound absolutely ridiculous on paper, but end up being some of the most memorable fan games out there, so let's get into it. It's pretty normal for me to get suggestions for games to play, and especially so when a new FNAF fan game gets released. However, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never throughout my entire YouTube career has a game been requested as frequently as the one we'll be covering today, and for a good reason. The game we'll be covering today is Forgotten at Fredbear's, the latest and greatest FNAF fan game in this ever-growing genre. Strap in, everybody. This game has a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and you will soon see why it's so hyped up. However, I feel it does have one big downside, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we can start talking about what this game has to offer in terms of an actual gameplay loop, we first have to talk about what happens before the game even begins, that being the opening cutscene.
I've done security work before, Mr. Afton. But this, the hours, the pay, it doesn't add up. Why me? You are reliable, John. That's all I need. A reliable man who does his job. The previous night guards will tell you everything you need to know. Do not concern yourself with the rest.
You always knew how to cover your tracks, didn't you, William? But I know what you've done. I've always known. It's not revenge. It's justice. Justice for her. I won't let her be forgotten.
Alright, so already we've got a lot to unpack. To start, I'm assuming that we'll be playing as the guy William was talking to, John. William is hiring a new guard, but as you can already tell by the sinister look on his face, he clearly has some ulterior motives. Henry is pretty pissed, and should be. William did kill his daughter after all, but I wonder if there's any proof of that murder actually happening. Afterwards, we're booted into an 8-bit minigame with a beautiful art style. Holy shit, this pixel art and animation is phenomenal. In it, we play as Evan, William's son, the crying child. However, instead of Evan getting bullied by the teenagers, Evan witnesses Charlotte being bullied by them instead. They push her outside into the freezing rain and Evan follows after her, only to watch William, his father, approach her and kill her in the alley. Evan runs back inside to Henry, Charlotte's father, and tells him what he saw. During their conversation, we can see the security puppet bolt past them in the direction of the exit door Charlotte got pushed out of, and this minigame comes to a close. So wow, this early in the game and we already saw the death of the first child. Should be kind of crazy out here, I suppose. Anyways, moving on to talking about night one and what this game really has to offer. The first thing I want to point out is how beautiful this game looks, especially when it comes to lighting. The designers of this game absolutely nailed the atmosphere of this game, and trust me, it only gets better the further down the rabbit hole we fall. The controls of this game are really a masterpiece, I can't lie. In my FNAF Rewritten 87 video, I mentioned how much I hated the way the mouse controlled, and how it was probably my biggest issue with the game. I cannot make the same complaint about Forgotten at Fredbear's. This just might be the most satisfying and responsive mouse controls I've ever felt while playing a FNAF game before. You wouldn't think you'd really notice a difference between FNAF games, but when you play as many as I do, it will be something you pick up on really quickly, and I really appreciate the devs of this game for nailing this so perfectly. Anyways, what about the tools at our disposal? Well, this game keeps it pretty simple. In our office, we have 2 entrances, I think. I know the door to our left is an entrance, but I'm also pretty sure that this big blurry thing in front of us is also a door, and this is corroborated by the way the camera map is set up as well. You can walk up to the door on your left, but just doing so will make it seem like it doesn't do anything at all. It will become very apparent what this door does once we start talking about one of the threats this night introduces. Of course, this game also has a camera system, as I already mentioned, and it comes equipped with several speakers to play music over. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Before we start talking about threats, I think we should talk about this night's phone call and why I feel it's so weird. There are actually 2 phone guys, and each of their names are Joe, referring to themselves as Joe A and Joe M. They mention what we'll be doing throughout the night, but who cares about that? They also mentioned the disappearance of Charlotte and how it affected Henry. Apparently, now he's just hiding out in the basement. The Joes said they snuck into the basement to see him, but were caught and thrown onto the day shift, which is why we're on the night shift now. Very, very interesting and intriguing stuff. And if we don't figure out what's down there, I think I might tear my foreskin off. I think I should also make it clear that Henry is under the impression that William is on the night shift, so it appears William hiring us is a type of cover-up for something. Maybe that's why he looked so sinister. So, time to talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. To begin, we'll talk about Spring Bonnie. Another quick thing I want to mention is the character designs these animatronics have. They all look super sleek, but Jesus Christ, are they uncanny and terrifying looking. If I were a kid coming to these restaurants, I don't think I'd ever want to come back. These things are scary as fuck. Anyways, what does Spring Bonnie do? Well, he makes use of that left door I mentioned earlier. He will make his way around the cameras and to said door. He will then literally push it open. And I think you'll enjoy watching what you have to do for yourself next. Oh my God. What the fuck? Yo, that's fucked up. That's so fucked up that you just did that to me. Tell me that's not the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen. They're straight up tossing in some after hours at Cody's level timing shit, and I'm all for it. It really adds to the stress and tension that the actual employee would be feeling during this moment. I think it adds so much to the atmosphere and really makes it feel like you're part of the experience. The next threat this night introduces is the security puppet, easily one of the most uncomfortable looking characters to come out of this game. The way she works is very simple, but that doesn't make her mechanic stop me from blowing my foreskin up like a balloon and making some balloon animals out of it. The puppet will come out of the prize corner and attempt to get to your office. However, instead of having a bullshit music box, she instead is just attracted to the sound of music. Most of the cameras on the map have a music button I mentioned earlier. If you hold down one of these buttons, music will begin to play. However, only so much music can be played on each camera. You'll be able to see the music draining on the button, so you'll have to use it sparingly. If you play the music on a camera adjacent to the camera the puppet is on, the puppet will be dragged into that camera. Continue doing this to pull the puppet away from your office, and make sure you're keeping track of how much boof juice is in your music boxes, and you'll be a-okay. Something you'll notice is that this night ends at 3 a.m. I thought that was really weird, but guess what? We're not even close to being done talking about the first night, as we're thrown into a repair minigame after completing the main part of that night. In this vent area, there are 4 vents, 1 on each side of you. Ignore how we even got to this position. I'm assuming we just climbed through one of the vents possibly. The goal of this minigame is to repair each of the 4 vents by doing a different minigame for each. But before we talk about these minigames, let's talk about the 2 threats we'll have to deal with at the same time. The first and most annoying threat is Balloon Boy, because of fucking course it is. He can come through 3 of the 4 vents. You'll notice one of the vents has a door you can close on it. This vent will be reserved for the other character this night introduces, so Balloon Boy can travel through the other 3. Balloon Bitch will be laughing constantly to inform you as to which vent he is going to try and come through. Once he gets close, simply flash your light at him and he'll dive back into the hellhole he came from. The other threat in this minigame is Mangle. Mangle works in much the same way as Balloon Boy, except she can only attack the vent that has the door. She makes sound cues as well, and when the sound cue she makes is very loud, that's how you know she's about to attack. Quickly turn to her vent and hold the vent closed. Once she stops banging on it, you're free to let go and continue fixing the vents. Speaking of fixing vents, how exactly do you do that? Very simple. Just kidding, each vent has a different minigame. The first vent will have you match several symbols multiple times over. This minigame is obviously super simple, but do keep in mind you will be being attacked by 2 dickheads at the same time. Once you complete this minigame enough, you can move on to the next. The next minigame has you playing Simon Says. Easily the most frustrating of the 4 minigames for one main reason. You cannot drop the maintenance panel until the system has stopped showing you the Simon Says panels. So, if you hear Mangle about to rape your shit, you'll have to wait until the panel very slowly shows you all 5 squares you have to memorize before you can deal with her. You then have to hope to God you remember the pattern as you turn back, because if you fuck up, your repair percentage will drop and you'll be stuck doing this minigame for even longer. The next minigame is Simple Sugar. Every few seconds, a letter will appear. All you have to do is press that letter on your keyboard. Do this enough times, and we can talk about the final minigame. The final minigame blows a bit of dick. You will have 2 bars with 2 small rectangles at random points on them. Clicking and holding a bar will make it start to fill up. If you let go, the bar will slowly decrease. You have to get both bars to be inside of their small rectangles at the same time, and do this several times for the minigame to end. This isn't by any means a difficult minigame, it just makes my dick hurt and my blood pressure rise. But if you can complete all 4 minigames, Night 1 will officially be completed. That's right, that was all only Night 1. Hooray! Hooray!
I let you take the night shift. I thought the other guards were too curious. I told you I trusted you to handle things. So go ahead, play a little card. But I know what you did, and I'll be the one who will deal with you. Our creations will be your undoing. I know the truth, that I won't let you live after what you did to my girl. I know what you are capable of. I'm sorry, old friend.
Well, would you look at that? Henry appears to be tampering with the animatronics to make them more hostile to attack William, since obviously Henry is aware that he killed his daughter. However, what Henry doesn't know is that William isn't actually working the night shift like he said he was. William is 3 steps ahead. He knew Henry would do something like this, so he lied to Henry that he'd be taking the night shift and hired us in his place. This is actually some really cool light Yagami type storytelling. I actually really like it. Now, moving on to Night 2, we have the night segment to talk about, and the new threat that this night introduces. The little whiny, annoying bitch himself, Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy's mechanics are honestly pretty simple. You just need to have some decent reaction time. Balloon Boy will move around the cameras at complete random, so tracking him just doesn't even matter at all. At random times, he will enter one of your 2 vents. A very loud, obvious sound cue will play when he does so. A few seconds after you hear the sound cue, he will drop down from any of the 2 vents on your office ceiling. All you have to do is click whichever vent he's in, but you do have to be very fast since you will not have a lot of time to click on him. Once you click him, he'll crawl back into the vent like the disgusting little fucking nematode he is, and then his cycle will repeat. In all honesty, I like Balloon Boy's mechanic. Reaction-based mechanics are always something I'll favor since it's just something I feel I'm better at. However, I do have a complaint with the response of this mechanic. Let's use Spring Bonnie as an example. When you properly hit a timing during Spring Bonnie's attack, there is a visual indicator that you did so. Obviously, that being Spring Bonnie recoiling from you slamming on the door. This gives the user positive reinforcement that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing properly. Visual indicators are always very important things to have in your games for responses to the player's actions to let them know that the actions they are performing are intended. Balloon Boy has 0 visual indication that you are dealing with him. Not only does this make dealing with him feel super unsatisfying every time you do it, but it can also be very confusing when you're first learning the mechanic. Let me give you the most basic example of a visual response indicator for those of you that don't want to do anything fancy. When you hover over the door to your office, your mouse changes to this sprite to indicate that yes, this is something that can be interacted with. Even this is enough of an indicator to let the player know what they should and shouldn't be trying to interact with. When Balloon Boy drops down from your vent, when you hover over the vent, not even this mouse change is present. Even though you are supposed to click on the vent, they give no visual indicator that you're supposed to do so. And when you do click on the vent, nothing seems to happen, as Balloon Boy will finish out his animation before closing the vent behind him and leaving. So when you click it, it literally feels like nothing happened at all. Is this a nitpick? Of course it is. However, I feel it's these little details that matter the most. When small things like UI and visual indicators are done properly, you won't even realize they're done properly at all, but you will realize when they're done poorly. Anyways, enough talking about that. Now it's time to talk about this night's post-night section, wherein instead of repairing the vents, this time around we're repairing Fredbear. This section is miles easier than the last. All we have to do is take Fredbear's head off, which you have to do very slowly or he will give you a rim job, which I'm personally just not a fan of. Afterwards, you'll have to remove his eyes. However, you can only remove them while they're moving or else he'll see you and
Playing your butt like a sandbox.
After that, get replacement eyes and put them and his head back on. Next, open his chest and do an Among Us wire and electrical task on his back. They even put symbols for all my other brothers who are colorblind, which I really appreciate. Put his chest back on and there's only one thing left to do. Run some diagnostics like we're Dr. House. Spoiler alert, it's not lupus. These are kind of like the salvage mini games from Pizzeria Simulator. You'll have to play some sounds that correlate to each of Fredbear's body parts. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, stop holding the button, or he'll hold your butt and squeeze way too hard for your liking. After you finish that, night 2 is complete and we move on to night 3, but not before seeing something a little interesting on our screen. Oh shit, we got a crying bitch, dude. Get your ass up. Yeah, that's right. Get your ass up. He's home again. Did you hear the door, Evan? You saw her, didn't you? Charlie, bleeding. I didn't mean to see. I just wanted to check up on her. But you did see. You saw what he really is. He wears a smile in the daylight, but you know. You didn't forget. I don't want to remember. Too late. You know what happened to your sister, Evan? She's at Mom's. She's just visiting. No, she's not. Do you really think you're safe here with him? Lie still tonight. Don't speak. For next time, he'll open the door. No. Please don't be him. Oh. Evan, there you are, bud. Wanted to check on you. Your birthday's coming up. Got something really special planned. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Been quiet lately. Everything okay? Just tired. Alright. Get some rest then. He's lying. You saw it. Charlotte. The alley. His hands. Henry's gone. We don't know why. You can't let him get away with this, Evan. Stop. Stop talking. You remember. And he can't know that. Ooh, shit. Night 3 only introduces one new threat, and I honestly don't feel like they're that much of an issue. But before we talk about that new threat, we need to talk about the insane phone call we got to hear. Joe A mentions that Henry was working on something that would make the animatronics be able to be controlled remotely, and they heard about it right after we noticed that Fredbear was tampered with, which was seen at the end of the post-night 2 repair section. When Joe A mentions this, Joe M gets incredibly angry, and we hear the following crash out of epic proportions.
Joe! What the hell are you going on about? That's enough! Focus on the job, not on things that don't concern us.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know. With Henry still missing and all, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was he really up to? And then there's the need for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opening up later this year.
Joe, I said that's enough! We're not here to talk about that. Stick to the script. We're here to help him survive, not gossip like old ladies. Or do you want him to end up like the others?
No, of course not. I just...
So, clearly they both are aware of something we're not. And from this point forward, Joe M is going to be a character I'm not a super big fan of in the slightest. But we can talk more about Joe M later. For now, let's talk about the new threat this night introduces. That new threat being Foxy, which turns out it was not Mangle in the vent, it was just Foxy, but he was all mangled. So it was basically fucking Mangle. Foxy is a character I was originally concerned was going to be a big pain in the dick, but again, I actually don't think that it's that big of a deal at all. Foxy is obviously in Pirate's Cove on stage. Every so often, you will be able to see him leaning forward, signifying he's about to sprint to your office like Tyson Gay and dig inside you like Scottie Pippins. When you see him leaning forward like this, all you have to do is close the curtains remotely for a bit until he calms down, then reopen them. You may be wondering, Dexter, why don't we just keep the curtains closed the entire night? That's a very good question, and is actually the question I had when playing this night. But turns out, Foxy does not like it at all when the curtain is closed. And if it happens to be closed for too long, he'll grab the curtains with his butt cheeks and rip the bitches open to force his way to your office. And I think we can all agree that that is a fate we don't want to have happen. What I personally found was the best strategy as of now was to force pull the puppet to Foxy's camera and just camp the cameras constantly. Since there's no power, I don't have to worry about it. And Spring Bonnie and Balloon Boy make sound cues when they attack, so that made it really easy to know when I needed to drop the cameras. Eventually, the music box in Pirate's Cove would run out, and when it did, I'd just drag the puppet to the prize corner and keep him there for the remainder of the night. If you recall, each night only goes until 3 AM, so this actually makes it very, very easy to conserve your music boxes. I just really hope that the puppet doesn't get ass-clenchingly fast by the end of this game. Of course, after we reach 3 AM, we can move on to the post-night section, which has us restocking a supply closet, with Joe M on the phone with us, talking it through. It's during this section where we begin to hear how much of an asshole Joe M really is, as throughout this section, as he's explaining what to do, the tone in his voice is very clearly aggressive.
The closet light and don't move.
Gotcha.
Not even a single twitch. Got it?
I got it. Damn, bitch.
Let's stock the shelves fast and clean.
It's the goal, asshole. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section. Throughout it, we will get deliveries of boxes outside of the closet door, consisting of things like duct tape, paper towel, tissues, and some other shit as well. Joe M will tell us the very oddly specific places on the shelf where we need to place each item. Which, by the way, I don't know why where we place things is so goddamn important, but clearly to Joe M it is. Of course, that's not all we have to do, as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie will be trying to enter our insides, like those fucked up little crack addicts who decide diving face first into a cave called Tight Squeeze Death Trap that has a survival rate of 0%, knowing damn well they have a wife and 3 kids back at home. Each character behaves slightly differently and will require a different form of defense. If you ever see Spring Bonnie at your door, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he runs away. Fredbear is a little different. If you see him at your door, you have to shut the light off to the closet and hold completely still until you hear his big fat feet waddling away. Then you can turn the light back on and continue. After you stock every item and fill the shelves up, Joe M abruptly hangs up on us. No goodbye.
Closet stocked. You're done.
Good. Why is he such a dude? Why is he such a dickhead? I have no idea what got into him. He's acting like we're the ones who brought up Henry's new experiment on the phone. It's not my problem, asshole. Anyways, on to night 4.
I don't care. Take care of Joe A. He's gonna get us all in trouble. Hey, champ. You like the yellow ones or the red ones better? You know, I didn't get a party like this when I was your age. Back then, we didn't have animatronics singing our name.
I don't want them to sing to me.
Come on, you'll love it. All your friends will be here. It's going to be perfect.
Do I have to go?
It's only a few more days.
Evan clearly is not a fan of the restaurant. I wonder why. Considering what he saw, there's not so much to talk about in the night section of night 4. However, there are 2 things I still want to mention. The first being the absence of Joe A. Obviously, in that cutscene, William says to get rid of him, and Joe M on the phone call says we won't be seeing him again. He also continues being an asshole throughout the call as well, and ends the call abruptly. No goodbye, dick. Anyways, the second thing I want to talk about is obviously the threat this night introduces. The man, the myth, the fat bastard himself, Fredbear. In all honesty, I think Fredbear is a pretty disappointing character in this game, as he is quite literally pretty much just Balloon Boy. Fredbear will wander through your cameras and eventually make his way to the 2 big doors in front of you in your office. When he walks through these doors, all you have to do is stare at him and not move. After a few seconds and some hallucinations saying he hurt us, Fredbear will exit the office. Literally just Balloon Boy with less steps, because you don't even have to click on him. But in all honesty, I think this game shines way more in the post-night minigames rather than the actual night segments, which I actually think is pretty cool. So speaking of, what happens during Night 4's post-night minigame? Well, we actually get to hear from Joe A again. He begins his message by saying if we're hearing him now, then that means something terrible happened to him. So basically, somebody murked my homeboy, and I'm gonna figure out who it is. Mark my words, when I do, I'm gonna grab their balls and squeeze them so hard they burst into little pieces, bursting his 2 balls into 38 tiny balls. Don't play with me. In this minigame, we get to speak directly to the puppet. Joe A tells us that we should never repeat to anyone what the puppet is about to say to us. There are some pre-selected questions that we'll have to ask her, and through her answers, we learn that she's Charlotte, the girl William killed in the alley, and the girl that Evan found, Henry's daughter. She mentions William, Henry, and the basement that she says nobody was supposed to enter. However, Henry has been in the basement a lot recently, obviously working on whatever he's doing to kill William. The puppet tells us that she has the key and ends the minigame by giving it to us, telling me that the final minigame we'll play will take place in that basement. However, this minigame isn't just talking to the puppet, as there are 2 major threats we have to deal with while doing so. Obviously, one of them is the puppet herself. While she's having the conversation with us, Joe A told us that she's very unstable. So if she ever starts to quiver in her boots, we'll have to use the music box to calm her down. The second threat during this minigame is Foxy. He will eventually wander into the prize corner with us, attempting to lick up the nape of our neck. He has several positions he can be seen in. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, you'll have to pull the spring lock override switch to reset him. However, resetting him will also cause the puppet to go crazy mode, and you'll have to immediately use the music box to calm her down again. After we get the key from Charlotte, we can move on to Night 5. Speaking of night, there is a metric fuck ton to talk about, so let's waste no time. To start, the night section is just a harder version of Night 4, so we can completely skip over that as it's not interesting at all. However, the post-night minigame is something crazy.
These machines were meant to be the future, William. The start of something new. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A place where children can laugh again. A place where you and I could have built something good.
And just like that, we've entered the basement where the original 4 animatronics are present and ready to eat our bussy. This minigame feels very reminiscent of Night 1's post-night vent minigame, where we have 4 different tasks to complete while being attacked. Each task we have to complete relates to one of the characters. Each has a different task we have to perform, while that task's respective character tries to insert itself inside of us. To start, let's begin with the main office area. There is a notepad on our desk that explains in detail how to deal with each character, but I'll be doing that for you, so we're going to ignore that part. What is important is this code on the bottom line, which gives us a termination code for each animatronic. After completing their task, we'll have to type this code into the computer to disengage them. While in the office, each animatronic has the chance to appear. When they do, just hide under the desk until they go away. Alright, so let's talk about Bonnie's minigame first. In it, there are several wires like it's Among Us. While looking at the panel, every century it feels like a symbol will appear on a small screen. You then have to cut the wire that shares that symbol. Cut the wrong one and Bonnie has a field day with you. Also, Bonnie is fat as shit. Occasionally, Bonnie will appear in the room with you. When he does, all you have to do is stare at him and hold your flashlight in his eyes, blinding him like when I was a kid and would stare at the sun for too long, or when I'd put the flashlight right up to my eyeball and turn it on. After you cut all the wires and disable him on the computer, we can move on to Chica.
But I know what you did. To her. To Charlie. You stood there and you watched the light go out of her eyes, didn't you? My little girl. And you took her from me. I thought if I gave these machines a greater purpose, if I made them strong enough, smart enough, maybe they could end you. Maybe they could give her peace.
Chica's tasks requires you to wait for 300 years for a fuck ton of switches to light up in a specific order, flicking them on after they light up. Meanwhile, Chica will slowly be approaching you through the hallway. When she gets close, all you have to do is close the door until she leaves. Once you've flipped every switch and disabled her on the computer, it's time to move on to Foxy.
Fredbear wasn't enough. Neither were the others upstairs. You slipped through again, like you always do. So I turned to the prototypes. Stronger, smarter, obedient only to me. Never to you.
Foxy's minigame is by far the best in terms of it not taking 6,000 light years to complete. All you have to do is spin this crank in a circle more than I throw my ass in a circle when I play a FNAF game with no power and no music box. While you do this, Foxy will slowly appear out from behind the curtains. All you have to do is occasionally pull them closed and he won't be able to get you. Terminate him on the PC and we can move on to Freddy.
I rewrote their code, set their purpose. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica. The ones buried down here. They were meant for you, William. To tear you apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left.
Freddy makes me want to die, easily being the most annoying character in this entire minigame. All you have to do is hold down a lever while a meter very painstakingly slowly fills up. Occasionally, Freddy will enter the room, and all you have to do is stare at him and not move until he goes away. The only problem with this section of this minigame is that it literally takes like 5 fucking minutes. It's ridiculous. Of course, terminate him on the computer, and the night is over, giving us this final, insane cutscene. It's a pretty long one, but you're not going to want to miss it.
I can't forgive you. Not for Charlie. Not for Elizabeth. Not for any of them. I don't know how, but you seem to destroy everything you touch. I want you to remember her face. Remember what you stole. Because everything I've built since that night has been for her. You will die here, William. And you will suffer.
Thank you for getting rid of them for me. But I can't let you walk out of here with all that, John. Nothing personal.
It's Evan's birthday, and all of the kids and William are standing around us. Henry enters and mentions he needs to talk to William. William, being in the spring Bonnie costume at the time, agrees and they head into the back room. Evan goes to follow them, but Michael drags him to Fredbear to do exactly what you'd think. I'll let the rest of the cutscene speak for itself, because it is truly one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Well, look who finally decided to come home. You're here about Charlie. Of course you are. Why'd you do it? You really don't know. It wasn't just about her. It was about you. What? You had everything. The money, the awards, your name on every goddamn news article. Henry Emily, the genius behind Fredbear's. You were the face of the future. I was just the man behind the curtain, building your dreams. You had a wife who loved you, kids who adored you, and Charlie. God, she looked at you as if you hung the stars. Meanwhile, my wife left. Michael hated me. Evan feared me. And Elizabeth.
Elizabeth got too close to one of my creations, and I just let it happen. Because that's what I do, Henry. Everything I build turns to rot. But you kept building a dream. So I tore it down. I took something you'd never get back. Not because I had to, but because I could. I wanted you to wake up like I do, empty.
Come on, give him a big old birthday kiss.
Oh, he's gonna cry again. She was just a child. Evan.
Holy shit. William went to save his child from Fredbear, but Henry remotely causes the spring lock failure while William was out in the open in front of everyone, in front of his 2 children. The spring lock failure happens in public where there are plenty of people to see, and as far as I can tell, it's not even confirmed if the bite happens. This was easily the most shocking cutscene I've ever seen from any FNAF game, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dexter Black. Finally, we see the locked FNAF 4 box. We get the bad ending. There's something we're missing. And don't worry, we're going to get it. Throughout this game, several crumpled notes can be found in various locations. Collecting all 6 of them will allow us to see what's inside of the box. So let's go over each location where you can find them. The first page is on night 1. It'll be directly on your desk. It reads, Evan keeps crying every night. He says he's seeing things moving at Fredbear's when nobody's there. Ever since Charlie went missing, he's been acting weird. The second page is found inside of one of the vents during the post-night 1 minigame. However, it doesn't appear immediately. You will have to wait for a little bit before it'll actually show up, which is a bit weird. Regardless, it reads, it's kind of funny how that balloon boy animatronic looks like me when I was little. I think Dad's trying to mess with me. He said it's a reminder of his favorite troublemaker. The third note can be found on the floor of the back room during the Repair Fredbear minigame. It reads, Henry hasn't shown up in a while. When I asked Dad, he started acting mysterious again. Reminds me of when Mom took Liz and left. Dad won't even talk about it. The fourth page is found during the stockpiling shelves minigame. After stocking the pizza boxes and the paper towel rolls, in the hallway you'll be able to find it on the floor. It reads, the new Freddy's place is supposed to have a Pirate Foxy animatronic. I told Dad that one's gonna be my favorite. The fifth page is found during the Speaking to the Puppet minigame. If you turn around where Foxy stands, you'll be able to see it on the shelf. It reads, my favorite employee, Joe A, got fired today. Kinda sucks. He was pretty cool. Used to sneak me extra tokens when Dad wasn't around. At least we still have the other Joe, but he's been acting weird lately. The final note is found in the basement night. If you go to Chica's room, on a chair next to the wall is where the note lays. It reads, me and the guys are planning something for Evan's birthday. We're gonna make him see that Fredbear's isn't scary. He needs to toughen up. Through these notes, it's very obvious that they were all written by Michael Afton. And that last note is especially eerie, confirming that the act that ends up getting Evan killed was premeditated. Now granted, clearly from this note we see they weren't trying to harm him, and it's framed in this game that Michael actually really cares about Evan and wants him to be tougher and not so scared of Fredbear's like we know he is. And nothing confirms this more than the true ending. After collecting all 6 notes, we'll be able to open the FNAF 4 box, and we get to hear from Michael himself. now completely alone with no family left.
Evan, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm so sorry. I didn't think you would go that far. I didn't think that you were always scared of that place, and I made it worse. I thought maybe you'd laugh, or at least see it wasn't real. Dad's gone. Right after it happened, his body disappeared, just vanished. Now it's just me. I didn't mean to hurt you, Evan. I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted you to stop crying. To stop being afraid. But I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know how yet, but I will. I'll stay here. I will put you back together, and then I'm gonna go find him. I'm going to go find Dad. Wherever he is. I don't care how long it takes. Evan, just don't leave me too.
So, here we learn what will motivate Michael to do what he did in the first 2 Click Team games. After the spring lock failure, William's body disappeared, implying that, as he always says, he always comes back. Michael sets out on his quest to find his father, and Forgotten at Fredbear's comes to a close. Overall, I think Forgotten at Fredbear's is an insanely good retelling of the origin story of what started all the conflict in Five Nights at Freddy's. It's easy to follow, yet there are several little things you can pick up on early in the game that hint towards what's going to happen, and I love that. I want you to think about the last time you've played a FNAF fan game that has introduced a mechanic you've never seen before. Maybe you think of Junior's deduction game mechanic. Maybe you think of Teelerland's upgrade system. Or maybe you dig really deep and think of One Night at Flumpty's 3 moving camera buttons. Whatever it may be, I'm sure you can agree that seeing a new mechanic is always interesting, and in my opinion is the most enjoyable part of playing FNAF games. I love exploring what people can come up with. Even if the new mechanics are frustrating, I still love them. The game we'll be covering today introduces a mechanic like nothing I've ever seen before. A game so obscure I'd never heard of it, and I'm willing to bet you've never heard of it either. The game we'll be covering today is After Hours at Cody's, a so far one-off FNAF fan game that introduces one of the most interesting game mechanics I've ever seen, while also telling one of the most gruesome and depraved stories I've ever witnessed. You're not going to want to miss what we have in store today, so let's dive into the world of After Hours at Cody's. Before each night, we get a small cutscene to show us a little bit of what we're getting into. In the Night 1 cutscene, we see a mysterious black figure cause one of the animatronics to awaken. And I'm not gonna lie, the animatronic that wakes up is a bit of a bad bitch, I'm not gonna lie to you. But with that, we do start Night 1. Night 1 obviously introduces one threat. But before we can start talking about that threat, we need to talk about the mechanic in this game that makes it so unique. The cameras. Taking a look at them, you'll notice that there's a long bar in the center of the map with one small section of it being red and a small rectangle quickly moving back and forth across it. If you haven't figured out what these cameras are about to do yet, then let me tell you. When you switch cameras, you will need to time the camera switch up with when the small moving rectangle is inside of the red bar. If you mistime it, then the camera you clicked on will load very slowly. And this is a very fast-paced game. If you time it properly, the camera will load almost instantly. This is such an interesting mechanic that I originally thought I was going to hate. But it's because of this mechanic that I've actually put After Hours at Cody's in my top 5 favorite FNAF fan games of all time. But the timing doesn't only relate to how fast your cameras load. If that was all it did, then this mechanic would be pretty lackluster overall. It also plays a much more integral role with a core mechanic of the game, the power. Your power drains pretty quickly in this game. However, there is a way to recharge it, and unlike in most FNAF games where you can recharge power, it's surprisingly not done by holding down a fucking button like a music box. Think dick. This time around, it's also tied to the timing mechanic in the cameras. Every time you properly time a camera switch, a small battery multiplier will increase by 1 at the bottom of the camera. The higher that multiplier is, the more power will increase with a maximum multiplier of 30. However, if you don't properly time a switch fast enough, then the multiplier will start to quickly decrease. So constantly switching cameras is a must. I think this is easily one of the most unique mechanics I've ever seen. It adds a level of skill that most other FNAF games just don't have. Most FNAF games' skill ceilings are marked by your reflexes. This one is marked by your rhythm, and I think that's awesome. But anyways, onto the threat this night introduces, Bad Bitch Bella. Or as this game calls her, Bella the Beaver. I think my name is a little bit better though, personally. Bad Bitch Bella has a very simple motive. Walk to your office, put a collar on you, and walk you like a dog. You guys can feel free to defend yourself from her, which I will explain how to do in a moment, but I for one will already be on my hands and knees by the time she enters the office. She will try to enter your office through camera 5 or your right door. In camera 5, she'll have 2 stages. One where she's far away from the camera, and another where she's much closer. Once she moves to her second phase, you will have to use your camera's alarm system, which, lucky us, is also tied to the timing mechanic. When you press the alarm button, if you don't time it with the red bar, the audio will not play and you'll have to wait for your alarm to charge back up. When you use the alarm on Bad Bitch Bella, she will look at the camera. When she does, all you have to do is close your door, and eventually she will go back to the stage. If you don't use the alarm on her, she will pound on your door and drain a lot of power before leaving, and then Operation Walk You Like a Dog will be set in motion. Very easy character to explain 2 very important mechanics in this game. I think After Hours at Cody's Night 1 is a great example of properly introducing your game's core mechanics in a way that isn't confusing or overwhelming. Plus, you made the character really hot for no reason at all. This is a children's establishment. Why are the characters hot? That's something I'll never be able to wrap my head around. Now, how do we actually complete the night? Surviving until 6 a.m., Dexter? You fucking retard? Whoa. Hey now. The people in my comments don't like it when you say that word. Do better, retard. Anyways, no. Surviving until 6 a.m. is not how you complete a night in this game. After Hours at Cody's opts to use a task-based completion system. Now everyone hold your breath, because this could either make or break this game depending on how shitty the tasks are. You can exhale. It's okay. The task is mundane. However, it plays into the game's core mechanic, so it actually makes for a very satisfying gameplay loop. Remember that black figure that brought the bad bitch back to life? Well, that character is known in this game as the Anomaly. And judging by that name alone, I'm willing to bet you can guess what this guy is going to do and what the task system in this game is. The Anomaly has a random chance to appear on any of the cameras in your game at any time. If at any point you find him, you will have to use your alarm on the camera that he's on. When you do, your Anomaly counter will go up. After you find him 10 times, the night will be over. You do have to note that he will not always be on a camera, and if you don't find him fast enough when he appears, he will not stay on a camera forever and will eventually leave. Again, overall this mechanic is pretty boring, but because of how well it ties into the timing mechanic, it serves as one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. But now on to night 2, except I lied because we actually have a cutscene to talk about first.
My dear friends, the worst has come to pass. As many of you may already know, my brother, Darren, has not been found since his disappearance earlier this year. He meant the world to me, as I'm sure he did to plenty of you too. His astounding creativity and infallible craftsmanship became the source of so many wonderful memories for children all across the country. These moments we shared will remain evergreen to me for as long as I live. Before I continue though, I'd like to show you this. A child at Cody's gave this to me once when I was visiting the restaurant. Wonderful, isn't it? This creativity we inspire. as it pains me to say, I do understand the suspicion people may have had toward me in the months following my brother's disappearance. But please, I urge you all to understand how these events have weighed heavy on me. He was my family too. The threats I've received since then caused me to think about my place in all this. I know I may not have been the most communicative or involved between the two of us, but I still did hold so much love for the work we did together. All this is to say that I will be stepping down as proprietor of Cody & Co. I've had a long and fulfilling career, and I only hope that the kindness I've shown will continue to reflect on the company as I look forward to finding someone new to handle the reins. But until then, I hope only to leave this company in a better state than it currently remains. If my being a part of this only serves to obstruct the joy and wonder that my brother and I wish to impart, then perhaps it is best if I step down and let the magic live on without me. Thank you for everything. I genuinely had a wonderful time.
So, we have two brothers that started this company together, and one of them tragically died. Now, I'm no FNAF expert. Okay, maybe I am a little. I think we're all smart enough to know that the pain in this guy's voice is definitely a little bit sussy. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but if it comes out that his brother is the one who killed him, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyways, on to night 2. By the way, if you were curious as to how this game explains the anomaly, well, the phone guy blatantly tells us that we're ghost hunting. Everyone that works in this building knows about this thing and what it can do, and we were more so hired to remove it. If I signed up for a night watch job and got told that, I would walk out of that building before the poor bastard could even hang up. Night 2 introduces one new threat, Morris, who also introduces the last major mechanic this game has to talk about, the curtain behind you. I haven't actually mentioned it so far, but yes, you can turn around in your office to find a curtain. It vaguely reminds me of the curtain from those nights at Rachel's. However, this game isn't mind-numbingly boring like that one is. Morris will slowly creep out from behind the curtains throughout the night. Occasionally, you'll have to turn around and force him back. However, unlike most curtain mechanics like this, it isn't just pulling them closed or holding your light on it. After Hours at Cody's needs to get a little bit quirky. Introducing probably the most frustrating mechanic in the entire game. Next to the curtains, you'll see 4 buttons. Each button has a color. You might be thinking, Dexter, I'm looking at them and not a single one of them has a color. Well, you see, dear viewer, that's what I thought too. However, no, they do indeed have a color. You just can't see which color each button is until you press it, which I think is very stupid. Morris has 5 phases before jump scaring you. The first phase is the phase you'll mostly see him in. All you'll be able to see is his nose. This is the furthest back that he can be, so if he looks like this, you're all good. The next 4 phases each correspond to one of those buttons. So depending on how close he is to ganking you, you will have to select the correct colored button and then flash your light on him to make him go back to phase 1. What do the buttons mixed with the flashlight have to do with sending him back? I really have no idea. And in all honesty, I think this is easily the weakest part of the entire game. But that's not where my frustration with Morris ends. No, not at all. Believe it or not, turning around in your office can be a frustrating experience for literally no reason whatsoever. How, you might be asking? Well, I'd be more than happy to explain it to you. Let's say you're facing towards your doors. Bad bitch Bella is at your door, so for now, the door is closed. While this door is closed, apparently Beth, the name of our player, gets fucking glued to the goddamn ground and is unable to move an inch. Because if either one of your doors are closed, you will be unable to turn around to check on Morris. How does this make any sense at all? It literally fucking doesn't. And that's not all. It gets even more frustrating. Let's imagine you're facing Morris. You press a button and flash your light to send him back. Now it's time to turn around and start filling up our power in the camera again. But uh-oh, fucker! You forgot to press the button you already fucking pressed. Because if any of the buttons are currently toggled on, you can't turn around. Why? Who the fuck knows? I love this game a lot, but holy shit, this is one of the most retarded things I've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense at all. Well, whatever. It's frustrating. It's stupid, but I didn't let it ruin my experience with the rest of this amazing game. Speaking of, let's move on to the post-night 2 cutscene.
Greetings, employee, and welcome to part 3 of the Warren Tech Mascot Training Module. In this chapter, we'll be demonstrating how to safely wear and operate our patented Flex mascot suit. To begin the process, locate the 4 winding ports present on each of the character's limbs. Use your company-issued War Wrench to turn counterclockwise and disengage the mascot's enhanced performance mode. You should notice the eyes glow red from the activation of the light relay. This means that the mascot is ready to be worn. Simply be warned. Do not, by any circumstances, wear the mascot suit while it is still in its enhanced performance mode. Its specialized routines involve the full rotation and contortion of the extremities. Should you be caught in the suit during the performance of one of these routines, do not panic. If you can, tuck your legs and arms into the main torso and lower your head as far as possible.
Repeat the phrase. Aboard showtime routine. Buildup protocol in effect. Aboard showtime routine. Buildup protocol in effect.
So it seems we've found After Hours at Cody's spring lock equivalent. And in all honesty, I think it's way more brutal than the spring lock suit could ever be. Imagine being locked inside of that clown suit, only for the arms and legs to start twisting, breaking your bones, ripping your tendons, and contorting your bodies in ways it was never supposed to bend. This is easily one of the most terrifying ideas I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I'm all for it. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Jack the Jackal. He acts as this game's Chica, being a borderline exact copy of Bad Bitch Bella, except she's a 10 and he's like a 4 at best on a good day. As I'm sure you could have expected, Jack does the exact same thing as Bella, except he attacks camera 6 and your left door instead of your right. The same system and rules apply to him. He has 2 phases on camera 6. Once he's in his second phase, use the alarm on him and close the door until he leaves. Simple sugar. We've dealt with this before, however, it does add a decent deal of pressure in combination with what we already have. The cooldown for the alarm is relatively slow, and now having 3 consistent problems we need to use it on, it could easily start to get out of hand fast. Not to mention having another door character which could prevent us from turning around to check on Morris. This game can get stressful, but I honestly think that's one of the most enjoyable parts about it.
Clocking out? Okay. Have a good night then. Hey, Lonnie, mind if I talk to you about something?
Oh, of course. I was just about to finish up here. What's on your mind?
So, I've been going over the company's financial statements to help allocate the budget for next year. I noticed that some of our bank capital's been withdrawn and donated to a couple of undisclosed recipients. They've been blocked out. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? Okay, if you don't know anything about it, I'll just go ask Cynthia.
You won't get anything of value out of her. I made those withdrawals.
Alright, that's fine, but let me know next time. Given how much was spent, I don't have enough money left to fund my R&D for the new mascots next year. We need to focus on improving the restaurant before doing anything like this, okay? Anyways, who were the recipients anyway? You're joking, Lonnie. Tell me you're joking.
Quite the opposite, I'm afraid.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And after all that shit about dedicating yourself to the betterment of the company, to promise a business that would never do anything to harm its audience again, you pull this on me?
Look, calm down. I can explain.
No, you can't explain shit. You may put up a face to get them to tolerate you, but I'll be damned if you ever gave a shit about the kids. I'm the one working my ass off out there to cover for your mistakes.
I said calm down! Don't even start with me. Your pitiful self-righteousness is pathetic. Do you not remember the hole I dug you out of? You owe every part of this success to me. I made this company, and I made you. Don't try to push superiority onto me when you're the one who crawled to me, begging for my help all those years ago. What I do with my company's funds is none of your business. Do what is asked of you before I decide you're no longer needed.
Fine, you made your point.
Glad we came to an agreement. Be seeing you.
Whatever.
So, the brother Lonnie, who we heard in the Night 1 cutscene, has been spending company money on something shady. The exact contents have been redacted, but judging from Daryl's reaction, it's not good news. We also have a pretty big argument about money here. And if we're still rolling with my theory that Lonnie had something to do with Daryl's death, money is one of the most common reasons for murder. Again, not necessarily pointing any fingers. Okay, that's a lie. Yes, I am. There's no way in fuck Lonnie isn't the reason Daryl died. But I guess only time will tell. Night 4 introduces the main attraction himself, Cody. Really shitty name, by the way. The only Cody I like is this gay guy who wears a lot of blue and has some yellow ass teeth. Anyways, onto what Cody from the game does. Cody's main goal in this game is to absolutely rail your power supply. There are 2 cameras which have breaker boxes in them. They must be female because Cody really wants to break their boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dig. When he's in either of these cameras, he'll have 2 phases. One where he's just kind of chilling there, and the other where he's having intercourse with said breaker box. When you see him doing his thing with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, use the alarm on his camera to scare him away. If you don't, obviously your power is going to disintegrate like the cells on my testicles when I accidentally place them on the stove. So, here we have yet another character that requires us to use the alarm system. Can you start to see how this game could become stressful? Especially considering that our alarm has a pretty long cooldown time in reference to the amount of characters that require its use. Yeah, it can become a bit much at times, but in all honesty, I never felt like this game was unfair. I never felt like there was even an inkling of RNG. This game is so fun. You guys really need to check it out, or check out my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dexter Black.
I'm done.
Just what is the meaning of this?
I can't keep covering your ass. I've just about had it. I've been trying to keep the magic alive for years at this point, but everything you've done has just thrown a wrench in every plan I've had. Every single time I was at the cusp of making something good for our audience, you've pulled the rug out from under my feet. Whatever, I know your heart was never really in it. Hell, we both know that neither of us would be here if it weren't for my mascots.
Do I need to remind you of the last time we've had this conversation?
No, because I've been thinking about what you said. Sure, you helped me out of a dark place, but I'm sure as goddamn hell you only ever did it to leech off my talent, knowing full well you couldn't produce a fraction of what we've accomplished here on your own.
Just get to the point. You're wasting my time.
I've had Cynthia pull our financial statements from the last 2 years. Don't even think about going after her when this is done, because she's made up her mind to leave long ago. I have the contacts of every news outlet in the state, ready to publish the uncensored documents at a moment's notice.
What? Are you dense? Don't you realize that this is gonna spell the end of you too?
I do. Besides, however this turns out sure as hell beats trying to steer a ship that's been sinking for years now. So I'm gonna give you two options. Walk away now and forsake your every stake in this company, or take the fall with me and lose everything anyway.
You belligerent, unthinking fool! You really haven't changed at all, have you? Still the over-emotional disaster of a child you've been since we were kids. God, it's no wonder Mom and Dad gave up on you so damn easily. You know what? Do your worst. You won't get anything out of me.
Then I guess you made your choice.
God damn it, Doria, get back here! This isn't something you just decide!
I've told you, my name is Daryl. Goodbye, Lonnie.
No, this can't be happening. Why are you making me do this?
Tisk, tisk, tisk. Well. Looky what we have here. Exactly as I suspected. Lonnie killed his brother. Sure, Daryl was gonna bring the entire company to its knees, but to be fair, it was entirely Lonnie's fault. I also want to use this cutscene to bring up a problem I have with some FNAF fan games. Voice acting can really make or break an impactful scene in a game. You really need to be able to get an actor or actress who can really bring that energy that the role needs to tell its story. Lonnie's voice acting is bad, and it really shows in this Night 4 cutscene. From the mumbling, making it hard to understand what he's saying if it wasn't for the subtitles, to the actor not really yelling during a scene where he needs to be yelling, it makes this scene, which is supposed to be impactful and shocking, just feel very awkward and uncomfortable. Not every game needs voice acting either. If you're a dev working on a FNAF game, or any game for that matter, and you just can't quite find an actor or actress that can fit your role with the vision you had in your head, I honestly think it's much better to just leave the voicing up to the player, rather than using an actor or actress that is going to make your scenes feel like they came out of Garden of Banban, a game series with notoriously horrendous voice acting. Anyways, moving on to Night 5. It introduces nothing new and just serves as a more difficult version of Night 4, so there's obviously not a whole lot to talk about here. However, what we can talk about is the post-Night 5 cutscene.
Hello? Oh, hello? Lonnie, what is this? Get me the hell out of here.
No. They can't know. God, why are you making me do this?
Wait, what? Lonnie, what the hell are you thinking of doing?
Please, don't make this harder than it has to be.
Lonnie, please, no. Listen, don't do this. I'm your brother!
You made me do this! They can't know. No one can know.
Please, Lonnie, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Now, no one will know. I'm sorry, Daryl.
So, Daryl was killed via the Flex clown suit, this game's spring locks. It's not often you see someone other than the villain in a FNAF game fall to one of these traps. I was definitely shocked when I first saw this, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dexter Black. Truly one of the most brutal death scenes I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Except this time around, it didn't happen to someone we wanted it to happen to. Night 6 introduces this game's final two threats, and one of them is obviously the clown, Klaus, acting as this game's boss fight knight. Klaus acts as every character we've seen so far, and that includes the anomaly. Klaus can attack both of your doors, can try to break your breaker boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, and is the anomaly you have to find. Namely, if his eyes are glowing, that's how you know to play the alarm. Do this 10 times and the night is over. But what about Morris? It's stated in the phone call that Klaus destroyed all of the animatronics. What about a Morris mechanic? Well, Morris is replaced by this night's second new threat, Shadow Cody, who is a much faster version of Morris. If you thought you had to check on Morris a lot, you have to check on Shadow Cody a fuck ton more. This night is intense. Klaus is fast. He will be moving around your cameras, attacking you very quickly. And in addition to the incredibly aggressive Shadow Cody, it really serves to test the limits of your skills and your timings, easily being one of my favorite nights in this entire game, and being one of, if not my favorite boss fight night in any FNAF game I've ever played.
Yeah. I need funkies. We're going to do wonderful things.
Before Beth can leave the building, she's caught by Klaus and is never seen by another human being ever again. A local who goes by the name Bethany Hasters has been reported missing as of Sunday 5 a.m. Last seen at Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub, authorities have been searching the vicinity and its surrounding forest areas to deduct what could have occurred. There is no current suspicion of foul play, but a manhunt will be conducted within the week. Authorities state to have found her place of work in disarray, sparking suspicions of the suspect being inebriated or the like. In addition to this, the robot entertainers of the restaurant were found completely disassembled and damaged beyond repair. The company has yet to release a statement, but the resigning CEO has spoken with authorities and announces that the robots will be sent for repair at one of the company's sister facilities. This story is depraved, and trust me, there's a lot that goes into it. Long before the game takes place, Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub was meant to be a second chance, a reopening of a restaurant that had already failed once before, revived under the guidance of Warren Technology. On the surface, it was nothing special. A modest, arcade-style diner built around animatronic mascots, struggling to stay relevant in a world that had already moved on. But beneath that fragile revival was something unstable, something unfinished, quietly embedded into the building's systems. That presence became known as the anomaly. Employees noticed it first, small things at the beginning, strange glitches in the animatronics' behaviors, systems responding without being touched, errors appearing where none should exist. Management acknowledged it, but only as a technical problem, something to be observed, something to be measured, not something to be feared. By the time Bethany Hasters was hired as the night guard, the anomaly was already spreading. Bethany's job was simple on paper: work the overnight shift, monitor the building, and collect data on the anomaly's activity. Her first night begins on November 9th, 1997, and at first, the restaurant almost feels dormant, quiet, empty. But that stillness doesn't last long, because each night, the anomaly grows more aggressive, and it chooses its host one by one. The first animatronic to fall under its influence is Bella the Beaver. Once a friendly mascot, Bella becomes erratic, hostile, and unpredictable, her movements no longer matching her original programming. The following night, Morris the Mouse is corrupted as well, then Jack the Jackal. Each evening, another animatronic loses control, as if something is slowly rewriting them from the inside. All the while, the anomaly watches Bethany. By Thursday night, even Cody, the face of the restaurant itself, is no longer safe. His corruption marks a turning point. The anomaly has nearly overtaken the entire system. Whatever restraint once existed is gone, and by Friday, the restaurant's original code is on the brink of a total collapse. Behind all of this is Warren Technology, and more specifically, the company's founders, Daryl and Lonnie Warren. Years earlier, Daryl had been responsible for developing advanced animatronic technology, including a dangerous experimental suit known as the Flex suit. At some point, Daryl was betrayed and trapped inside that suit. Whether intentional or negligent, the result was the same. Daryl never escaped, and what remained of him became something else entirely. The anomaly. On Friday night, Lonnie Warren lies about a meeting, betrays another employee, and secretly releases what remains of Daryl from backstage confinement. By Saturday, the animatronics have been dismantled, but the threat hasn't ended. The anomaly has a body now, a form known as Klaus, and it is no longer bound to systems or code. It hunts Bethany directly. Saturday night becomes less about surviving malfunctioning machines and more about avoiding a conscious entity moving freely through the building. And if that wasn't enough, another presence emerges, Shadow Cody, a dark manifestation tied to the restaurant's collapse, appearing as an additional threat. In the end, Bethany doesn't escape. She's caught by Klaus and taken away, her fate left deliberately unclear. In the final cutscene, Daryl, still trapped within Klaus, offers her a gift, hinting that her story isn't over, and that whatever comes next will involve choice, consequence, and continuation. And that's where After Hours at Cody's leaves us. A restaurant reopened too late, a company that tried to bury its mistakes, and a presence that was never just a glitch, but the remains of someone who was never allowed to leave. But that's not where After Hours at Cody's comes to a close. Not quite yet. We still have something very interesting to talk about. If you go to the custom night menu after completing the final night, you will see a small chest icon in the bottom corner. Clicking on it will bring you to a FNAF 4 styled lock box with 2 padlocks. And rest assured, we can get the keys. The first key is locked behind 520 mode. If there's anything you guys know about me, it's that I'm absolutely terrible at Five Nights at Freddy's games. But you want to hear something crazy? I was actually able to beat this max mode, and I even did it on my first try. I would usually never even give a max mode a try, and at the time of playing it, I didn't know that beating it would give me a key. Does that let me unlock one of the boxes? Oh my god, it did! So the fact that I played it and beat it goes to show just how much I enjoyed this game, and I really think you guys will too. But what about the second key? Well, you get it by completing this game's second max mode, 220 mode with Klaus and Shadow Cody, which yes, I also beat, and yes, I also beat on my first try. I don't think this game is necessarily very difficult by any means, but I am still very proud of myself for actually doing it. And watching me play it over on my second channel, Dexter Black, makes me look like I'm a lot better at these types of games than I really am. After completing both max modes, we can take the keys and unlock the box to find a very menacing looking character whose eyes turn on, a teaser for what will undoubtedly be a second game, and I believe that this character we see here is Bethany. But only time will tell. One last thing I want to talk about is something you can find in the extras menu. If you scroll through the characters until you find Klaus and hover over his face, you will see what I believe to be the rotting, decompiling corpse of Daryl. Truly one of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in a FNAF game. And with that, that's all After Hours at Cody's has to offer. Overall, I think this game is easily one of the most unique, interesting, and fun FNAF games I've ever played. Right up there with how much fun I had playing Juniors. After Hours at Cody's really is a super fun experience with a gruesome, easy to follow story, and I highly recommend you give it a try. What do you think is the most underrated Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever made? A series that is so amazing you'd think it'd be talked about everywhere, but when you go to check, it seems like nobody has ever even heard of it. The game we'll be covering today is one of those games for me, and when doing research for this video, especially when talking about the lore, I found it incredibly difficult to piece it together because of how little information there seems to be about it. But rest assured, I think I've got it figured out. The game we'll be covering today is Project Readjusted, a FNAF fan game with one of my favorite stories of all time. Sit back, relax, and let's jump into this amazing trilogy together. First big change I noticed in Project Readjusted from most FNAF games is the way the phone calls were handled. Rather than having the phone calls take place inside the game, this game instead chooses to have us listen to the phone call before we even load into the office, instead giving us a still image to look at showing the characters we will be seeing on each night. I'll admit it's unique, however, I think I'd personally prefer to be able to mess around with the cameras, mechanics, and so on while the phone guy is talking, and just have to make sure nobody moves while that's happening. I feel that's a much better way to utilize the first phone call in a FNAF game. The first phone call doesn't give out any meaningful information, really just going over how the main character Buster works, but it's my job to explain the mechanics, so I don't think I'll be letting the depressed sounding Wei Ji do that for me. Upon loading into the office, you may feel just a little cramped, and that's normal. This office is teeny tiny, like much smaller than most FNAF offices I've seen in my days. Obviously, we have a door to the office, because if we didn't, I'd question how we even got into the room in the first place. However, the interesting thing about this door is that it doesn't close. Oh, Dexter, does it not have an actual door? Like, it's just a doorway? No, there's a door. Our character just for some reason chooses not to close it. But instead of thinking that's because we're playing in the shoes of a dumbass, I'm instead going to assume it's because we're playing in the shoes of a badass who isn't scared of anything. We also, of course, have our cameras, which are very interesting to say the least. To start, they have two modes, lights on mode and useless mode, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, if the lights are off, you can't see anything. I know, groundbreaking. You'll also notice you have a camera stability percentage. What does that mean? Well, as the name suggests, it reads the percentage of your camera stability. I'm sorry, I'll stop talking like that. While on your cameras, the stability will quickly decrease. Putting the camera down will cause it to quickly increase back up. If it drops down to 0, you're gonna have to wait a while before being able to use it again. So, what about that Buster fella I mentioned earlier? How does he work? Great question, viewer of questionable stench. Buster is as basic as a character can get. I'm sure you could probably guess what he does, but it's my job to tell you. Buster will move around through the cameras with the goal of getting to your office. Once there, he'll peek his little head through the door. Using this comically large blue button on the wall of your office, you can shine a light into the doorway, revealing he has the teeth of a British person. Hold this light on him for long enough and he'll go away. Simple sugar. After night 1, we get a short cutscene. You guys seem to like the narration I did in my Maggie's video, so instead of just summarizing what happened like I would usually do, I figured, why not narrate this as well? Hey, it's been a long time, you and me. We finally met ends on a good note, for now. I'm only implying that our experience will be better. Now, there is something I need to tell you. I know I'm jumping to conclusions without explaining who I am, but bear with me. There is something inside this diner. Just maybe put on some type of gig to make some fool believe you to make them work here. Maybe that person will lure that thing out. I'll tell you more tomorrow, but for now, let's begin to go inside. Let's take the back alley, as it's less noticeable. Come along, we only have 5 days. Sounds like someone's trying to dupe us and use us as bait. That's not very kind, vaguely barbaric. But whatever, we're already working here. I guess it's just in our best interest to not die. Moving on to night 2, you can quickly take a little nap because the phone guy takes a billion years to talk about the new character this night adds, and ramble about some arcade machines. The new character added on this night is Old Buster. At least, that's the name that would make sense. However, this character's name is actually Redeemer. Quite literally, being an older Buster model, I can't quite wrap my head around why they chose to name him in the way they did. Redeemer makes use of your vents, something I've neglected to mention thus far. You can't really see it, but the vent is to the right of your office behind the door, so just out of sight. Redeemer does whatever he damn well pleases until he eventually decides to enter the vent. When he does, an obvious sound cue will play letting you know he's entered. Once he reaches your office, he'll dive in. When he's in your office, it's very important that you don't look at him. However, since the office we're in is so small, it may prove very difficult to just look away from him. So you'll have to be looking at your cameras while he's in your office instead. I guess Redeemer has the mindset of, if I can't see him, he can't see me. Stupid ass robot. This, however, may bring up a possible conflict. If your camera stability is too low by the time Redeemer gets to your office, it's safe to say that you wouldn't have a very good time. But luckily for us, at this point in the game, checking the cameras is entirely useless. So as of right now, this shouldn't be a problem. Hey, so I was looking around in these garbage bins and found a key. It's great, I know, the low effort put into protecting this place. Anyways, remember that idea I had, well, a few minutes ago? I got this one guy on my phone now. His name is Hayden Simmons. Pretty dumb fellow. I bet he doesn't even know of this place. Probably a high school dropout or a kid desperate for some easy cash. Well, now let's venture inside this establishment and set up an office for our buddy. So, we know the name of our character, Hayden Simmons. Too bad his name is one of the rhyming Aiden names, probably the worst group of names anybody could have. That's besides the point though. It seems like the building we're working in isn't even supposed to have an office. It's clear something sinister is going on here, but we don't quite know what yet. Moving on to night 3, I'm going to spare you the details and have us skip the phone call because he explains what the newest character does in an amount of time that could be an entire video by itself. Night 3 introduces Ned. Ned is ugly, like ugly as sin. He's got a face not even a mother could love. Booger-ah boy. He will try to make his way to your office via the long hallway in the building. Unlike Buster, he isn't a complete dumbass, so the light trick won't really work on him. What will work on him, however, is the replace machinery button that I've blatantly and purposefully ignored up until this point, because explaining it earlier really wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense, now would it? Ned has multiple stages in the hallway. Every time you use the replace machinery button, he will go back a stage. I'm sure you can figure out how this works. Push him back, wait for the button to recharge, push him back again, keep him away from your office, which would in turn keep him away from your genitals. Whoopity-doo. However, this does bring up the issue of us needing to use our cameras now. So in combination with Redeemer, Ned could end up being a big problem down the road. Alright, sorry for keeping you waiting, but I had to run back to my car to get a battery for my phone. It's pretty low percentage right now, but it'll last now. Hayden says he'll be able to work next week, which is great. We'll pay him around $150 for his work, I guess. Maybe it's considered a scam to him, but I don't care. He just said he's not a fan of night jobs, but will do it anyways, and he'll play on his phone. That's gonna go down well. Anyways, let's head inside. The Wi-Fi better not be bad inside, I swear. Not much to note from this cutscene. We know we're getting criminally underpaid, and we know that playing on our phone really isn't going to be an option, which just makes me smile from ear to ear personally. Night 4 introduces 2 new characters. However, one of them serves to be more of an annoyance than an actual threat, so we'll talk about him first. Greg is a little asshole. Really, this game's Balloon Boy. Not because he has the same mechanic, except I lied because he kinda does. His main goal is to disable your light and leave you vulnerable to Buster. He'll slowly crawl across your office. You will have to click him multiple times to make him go away. If you don't, he'll park his fat ass on the button and prevent you from using your light. You might be asking yourself, Dexter, clicking on him? How does the game justify that making sense? Perfect question. From the way the phone guy describes it, it's just poking him. So I guess this motherfucker's just the Pillsbury Doughboy. Ticklish ass robot. The other That's so fucking stupid. The other character introduced on this night is Glancy, what I feel is this game's most frustrating character. Glancy tries to get into the back storage room and just literally fuck up everything in the entire building. Rip wires, killing your lights and your camera. So obviously something you should want to avoid. The way you do so is very easy. Remember how I mentioned the cameras had 2 states, on and useless? Well, turns out I lied, as the useless mode actually isn't useless. When Glancy gets into this back room, all you have to do is turn the camera lights off and he won't be able to see shit, making him decide to travel into another room by accident. I'd imagine it's an accident since he can't see, but he could have easily just gotten pissed off and left on his own accord. Which, if he can see where the exit is, you'd probably think he could see the wires, but I guess not. We're inside. Now, let's just put some of these cameras around the building and we'll be all set. Oh, never mind. There's a panel lying down on this shelf. Wait. You hear that? Well, anyways, you'll record calls just to convince him, Andrew. Just do a casual voice or whatever. Nice, these'll work. What the? Did I just hear walking? Wait, who are you? Andrew, run. He's looking for me. I'll see you around, friend. Dope. So we know the name of our phone guy, Andrew. Sounds like whoever is heard in these cutscenes isn't Andrew then. And apparently upon entering the building, something found them. Andrew ran, leaving whoever he was with behind, not knowing what the outcome was. Night 5's phone call actually has something interesting in it, if you could believe that. Andrew tells us that the character introduced on this night has something they want. Finally, a motive for what they're doing. Apparently this new character, Vinard, has a special chip that they really want. Andrew doesn't explain why they want this chip, but I'm sure we're gonna find out. Speaking of Vinard, what does he do? Well, he will try to hack the cameras so that you can't use them, and then wheel his way over to your office to kill you. Not sure why he has to disable the cameras to do that, but he does, I guess. Occasionally, you will see a purple error next to his camera. When you do, all you have to do is go to that camera and turn the light off so he can't see. Because like some people, he can't type without looking at the keyboard. Embarrassing. That's a talent you probably want to learn if you're on a computer all day. But that's really all he does. It really starts to show on this night how difficult this game can be, requiring you to be in the cameras very frequently. The only real chance you'll get to recharge your stability is when Buster is attacking, and I think that was on purpose for the sake of balancing, but maybe I'm being too optimistic. Unlike every other night, Night 5 doesn't have a post-night cutscene, so I can't talk about that. What I can talk about, however, is an Easter egg and a fun piece of trivia about one of the characters in this game. After completing Night 5, you will unlock Custom Night. Inside, if you set everyone to max and click the Fox plushie in your office, you'll get this jump scare. And if you're interested in something about Vinard, he's actually a character made by Mixlass, the guy that made Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. and Baby's Nightmare Circus, which I've covered on this channel before. Definitely go watch that video after you finish this one. And as a result of using Mixlass's character, Mixlass then used one of Mechless's characters in his game Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. Pretty cool if you ask me. But that is all Project Readjusted has to offer. Overall, I think the game is surprisingly mechanically complex for a first game, something pretty uncommon with fan games that take place in a series like this. But don't let the lack of lore fool you, as Project Readjusted has one of the most interesting stories I've ever seen, and it continues in Project Readjusted 2. It's been so long since I've seen Matthew. He just disappeared. I must find him again. I have so many questions. I could possibly get answers from the new Buster's location. The location is currently being renovated, but they must need some kind of guard. Could be hiding there after all this time. Well, let's see where this takes me in my hunt to find him. Project Readjusted 2 opens with a mission already in mind, finding a man named Matthew. I'm unsure who Matthew could be. My only guess at this time is it's the guy that got left behind by Andrew in the first game, but that is obviously unconfirmed as of now. Our player, Andrew, enters an old Buster's location to look for answers, throwing us right into Night 1. Loading into Night 1, we get a call from the phone guy who goes over the basics of what we'll be doing. He mentions that they're currently working on newer models of all the characters. Not a whole lot of interest to point out during this call. However, what is of interest is how scared I was when I first saw the equivalent of 3 fucking music boxes and 1 camera. But lucky us, we don't have to worry about that right now. Unlike Readjusted 1, this game doesn't have anything to stop you from staring at your cameras for as long as you'd like, which is a breath of fresh air. But that only means that this game is going to be AIDS in a different way, and we'll figure out how soon. Let's talk about the first and only threat Night 1 introduces, Cable Buster, who I'm just going to be calling Buster because I'm lazy. Buster makes use of a new mechanic this game introduces, the Showtime tapes in Camera 1. When Buster gets to either Camera 5 or Camera 7, you will have to look at him. He will be repeating a day of the week. I don't know why he feels the need to say it out loud constantly. Phone guy explained that apparently that's what he's designed to do, walk around the building and inform people when the show is about to start. But why would he say the day of the week if that was the case? I have no idea. Once Buster says what day of the week the show is on, you will have to quickly go to camera 1, set the sound file to the day of the week he stated, and play the audio track. This will cause him to meander back to camera 1 and do a little jiggy. Just kidding, he doesn't dance. I just lied to you. Something isn't right. Papers are coming in about a missing person. A missing person at the old Buster's. It must have been the spy that Matthew took care of. He's on the prowl and I will end it in this place. There's no way I can fail this. His tracks are so hidden yet so predictable. I just need more clues. So, Matthew killed a guy, and not just any guy, he killed a spy. So clearly Matthew is probably a bad and dangerous man. So we should approach with caution. Not knowing anything else, we move on to night 2. Night 2, the phone guy introduces some new mechanics, but fuck him, my voice sounds better. Night 2 introduces Infested Glancer, but before we talk about what he does, we should talk about the second thing our cameras can do. Show some air ducts! Hooray! The air duct menu is very reminiscent of the ones from Ultimate Custom Night. You have a radar that you can use to detect anything moving inside. Spoiler alert, Glancer is inside. You may also notice that there are 3 things you can repair. Are your FNAF 3 senses going off? Because mine are going haywire and it's making me want to off myself. The 3 things to repair are your radar, your lights, and your doors. Glancer will attack any of the 3 vents in your air ducts, all of which lead to your office. Use the radar to find where he is and close the door when he gets too close. You'll notice that you have a meter on this screen that tracks your door power. If it runs out, you'll have to reboot the doors, and of course, after too many uses of your radar, you'll have to reboot that as well. Glancer brings up a very obvious issue. He's fucking annoying, and he's very fast, easily being the most annoying character in this entire game, demanding the majority of your attention like a clingy girlfriend that you're slowly falling out of love with. And of course, the repairs in this game are some of the most frustrating mechanics I've ever had to deal with, spending the majority of my playthrough listening to that ear-grating beeping. This is where camera stalling comes into play. By staring at Glancer, or Buster if you really wanted to, you can prevent them from moving. Glancer does not initially start in the air ducts, so I'd usually spend as long as I possibly could staring at him so he didn't slip away. Because once he's in those ducts is when he becomes Satan. I can't decide on what to do. This whole situation is terrible. One wrong step and I'm in jail or potentially executed. I'm not falling into that hole of guilt with no way to release it. But damn, corpse inside that Glancer suit has definitely gotta be the spy. What else would Matthew have done to the body? Thrown it out? No way. I got my evidence. Now I just have to find Matthew himself. He can't be stopped now. So apparently there's a body inside of Glancer, the spy that Matthew killed. So yeah, that checks out. It really wouldn't be a FNAF game if people weren't getting stuffed into mascot suits, would it? Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, Magic Suit and Wraith Ned. Let's talk about Ned first since he's less annoying. He's this game's version of a Phantom Chica. Occasionally, he can start to appear on one of your cameras. If you don't look away from him fast enough, he'll jump scare you and cause you to need to repair everything. Your radar, your lights, your doors, your dick. Not super annoying, just get some reflexes and you'll be fine. Magic Suit, on the other hand, is very annoying. This is the guy who thought it'd be really funny to have 3 fucking music boxes at the same time. His 3 plugs will slowly decrease in power. You'll have to keep them charged up if you don't want Magic Suit to Magic Mike you. Fuck. You'll have to keep fuck. You'll have to keep him charged up if you don't want Magic Suit to Magic Mike you. But in all honesty, these 2 new characters aren't even an issue. This entire game's main problem is Glancer. God, I hate him so much I could just stick a fork in my ass. That doesn't even make any sense, but irrational anger causes irrational responses sometimes. I don't know what to tell you. What the hell was that purple thing? Is the air in this place toxic? What the hell? Can't keep working here. I must escape before I lose my mind. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have a feeling finding Matthew won't be easy. Speaking of which, I found a tape from the old location. That Glancer suit had made itself in the backstage. How? Must have found the pieces from when the original Glancer and Glossy characters were split up and put together. I don't know how sewing those two together made any sense, but I guess it was good for Halloween. Scratch that. Anyways, Matthew forced that spy corpse down inside the Glancer suit while it was trying to escape. What is wrong with these chips? I feel like someone is controlling them. No way this is artificially programmed in the animatronics. It's too mobile. Now there's more than one thing I need to find out. Great. So it sounds to me that Glancer put himself together and tried to escape the building, but while doing so, Matthew stuffed a corpse of the spy inside of him. What the hell is going on? I have no idea, but hopefully some more context will come along soon. The only character introduced on Night 4 is Wraith Finn, being in my opinion the second biggest threat in this game. Finn will quietly appear in your office. Up until this point, you haven't had any reason to ever lower your camera. Well, Finn is now your reason. When he appears in your office, you will have to hold your mouse over the top half of his body until he fades away. If you don't, say hello to a fuck ton of repairs and a quick death. Something I find really weird about this mechanic is how it's explained in the game. The phone guy literally tells us to put our cursor over it.
She said she stared at what she saw, putting your cursor right on its upper half. That's kind of specific, but whatever. Just her, I guess. Anyway, good night.
I've never really seen a FNAF game be meta like this before, but I guess how else are you supposed to explain the mechanic? I suppose you could say to stare at it, but that wouldn't indicate you need to touch it with your mouse. Overall, a very goofy introduction, and a character that I forgot about so much, I think I died to him more than any other character throughout this entire franchise. Okay, I have many questions. How did that design get into this place, and how did it just fade out of existence? It was called Finn. We never got around to finishing it. It was like Buster's pal. The head was never done, but he had his other pieces done. Although I noticed this Finn had his hands gone. This place is so damn weird. This place is so damn weird. Alright, so really nothing interesting said there at all. Finn was supposed to be Buster's friend. Buster is a fucking robot. He has no friends. Moving on to Night 5, as it should be much more interesting and hopefully have a more interesting post-night cutscene. Night 5 introduces the last threat this game has to offer, Wraith Vinard. A character that isn't too terrible to deal with, but will really just act to take more of your needed time away from Glancy, which is obviously not something we want. Vinard only ever appears on camera 8. Occasionally, when checking that camera, you will see Vinard's silhouette with no eyes. You will have to stare at him until his eyes appear. Once they appear, you will then have to quickly look away as if you aren't the fucking reason his eyes appeared in the first place. Something super interesting to note that I haven't mentioned so far is how these wraiths have been explained by the phone guy, being the only characters he's convinced aren't real. But you might be wondering, if he doesn't think they're real, why does he mention them? That's a good point. Apparently, the guard that worked here before us left several notes about these wraiths, and the phone guy is reading her notes to us in the phone calls. Maybe as an in case, maybe just to make fun of her. Who's to say? Either way, I find it interesting. Vinard? With legs? What is going on anymore? I can't take things seriously. Wait, no. I hear sirens. I still haven't found Matthew. And I got several people outside awaiting my arrival. Police cars. Someone found out. Someone told them. Matthew, you bastard. I will find you. You won't get away with this. I can't believe this is how my story ends. It's not right. I can't. Matthew was never found by any officials or Andrew. Andrew attempted to bring the situation to court, but not enough evidence was collected. Andrew was deemed guilty for the corpse inside Buster's Diner World and was sentenced to death row, his execution following a month after being assigned. This was not the outcome he had thought of. It could have been worse. This story is false. Well, goddamn! Quick recap. In this game, we play as Andrew, the phone guy from the first game. We still don't fully know exactly who Matthew is, but he called the police and informed them that Andrew was at the building and had killed someone. They arrived, found the body in the Glancer suit, and had Andrew killed, giving us the fake ending. Oh god, endings, Dexter. Let's quickly go over what it takes to get the true ending, please. Well, there are several minigames you will need to complete throughout the game in order to get this true ending. Let's blast through how to get them. During each night, a specific camera will have its name flickering slightly. Clicking on the name will shoot you into the minigame. On night 1, it's the main supply camera. On night 2, it's the West Hall. Night 3, it's the secondary supply entry. Night 4, it's the secondary supply entry again. And night 5, it's the power breaker. After completing all the minigames and successfully beating night 5, you'll get the true ending instead. The minigame. It spoke the words I couldn't find myself. Matthew died with his baby. A tape left on him. I can't explain what I've experienced here. I can't go on with this sudden guilt. This damned children's entertainment chain should have never happened. This outcome was not proper. And I can't handle it. I don't know what will happen next. I'll report the death of him and the corpse to the police. At least I can get off with no charges. I can't put myself to do it. I can't go the route my gut wants me to go. Later the same night, Andrew had a heart attack. No evidence was ever turned into the police due to this. Nearly a week later, police arrived after suspicion from pedestrians roaming the streets. Police had not told any officials about what was found and began to demolish the location. Andrew's story is over. An ending to a tragic story. There are no solutions to the problem. Diner World Entertainment was shut down immediately and ran out of business, seeking a new opportunity to reach into kids' hearts. This is the true story. Well, goddamn! Turns out it didn't matter what he did. Andrew still died, and no word of Matthew was ever heard from the police. We just can't win, can we? Well, luckily for us, this storyline does continue, and even more lucky for us, it continues in the best game in the series, and arguably one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed.
I know who you are, Andrew Vargas. I've seen your name in records before. I know what you're doing. You want information, lots of it. I'm no provider, but I can lead you to what you want. I know that man, Matthew, has been nothing but a mystery to you. His image is shrouded in a dense fog that your gaze cannot penetrate. But you want to break it, do you not? You can either go the full walk or fall short. There is no try this time. All the information you want to grasp so badly can be obtained. All you have to do is satisfy us. There are 3 captives full of knowledge below the storage facility. Treat them to our satisfaction, and they will live out to the 5th and final day. On that day, they will be free. They will be able to tell you all that they know. This is what you want, right? The data you seek is waiting for you.
And here we are! Project Readjusted 3, the last game in the series and undoubtedly the best. This opening cutscene throws us right into the world of this twisted game. We play as Andrew. That might seem a bit confusing since Andrew died in the last game. But guess what? Apparently, both of the fucking endings weren't real. So what the fuck? I'm not joking, by the way. I'm being completely serious. Both of the endings in the second game aren't real. The true ending isn't real. Both the fake ending and the true ending both didn't fucking happen because it takes place before this one. So like, what the fuck was that all about, huh? Anyways, we're not sure who was speaking to us in that cutscene, but apparently there are 3 survivors that have all the information we need to solve whatever is going on with Matthew. And with that, we're tossed into night 1. This game does progress based on objectives instead of time. But rather than a game like Pizzeria Simulator where the tasks you have to complete are mind-numbing, the task in this game actually requires a small bit of brain power and is truly one of the most creative takes on a FNAF game I've ever seen. We're tasked with protecting these 3 captives. In the cameras, you'll be able to see 3 rooms. Each of these rooms holds one of the captives. You can keep track of their stats at the bottom of the monitor, see how much hunger, thirst, and satisfaction they're all at. Note how much supply you have. Your goal throughout this night is to send these captives shipments of food and water. Then, once they're all satisfied, the night can end. When you open the gate, food and water will slowly be dispensed. You can control which room these packages will go to. The longer you take to send a captive something, the lower their satisfaction will go. At the top of the screen, you'll see a minimum grade you need to complete the night, and which grade you're currently at, meaning you don't have to fill each room up to its entirety to complete the night. However, I'm a fucking badass and chose to get the best grade possible on each night. In order to refill your supplies, you will have to complete a task. A set of numbers will appear in a random order and you will have to click them in that order. When you finish, your supply will be slightly filled. Side note, if you ever see this sliding minigame instead of the number one, that's because in that specific moment, I'm using footage from Indie Fuel, and in his playthrough, he was playing an earlier version of the game that used a different minigame. And that's all that happens on night 1. I could talk about the cameras for sure, but I think that'll become much more important in night 2, which actually brings on the first and main threat this game has to offer. But before we can get to that, in true final game lore dump fashion, after each night we get a post-night minigame to have fun with. In this minigame, we just kinda walk around. We check the stage in the main room and notice that there's supposed to be 2 animatronics on stage, the other being Finn. You may remember him from the second game. We go backstage where we believe Finn should be, only to find a dead child on the ground, bringing this minigame to a close. Something really awesome about this game is the patient hub. Dexter, what's the patient hub? If you'd shut the fuck up and watch the video like a normal person, instead of continuously asking questions like the girl you're watching a movie with that you really wish you didn't invite over because you're just trying to watch the fucking movie, I'd explain it to you. Sorry, lost my temper a little bit. Anyways, the patient hub is on the menu. Using it will actually let you go to talk to the 3 people you're protecting throughout the nights. Throughout the nights, heading to the patient hub, they will give you different pieces of information as the game goes on. On this first night, they don't tell you anything since they've been told they can't yet, probably by whoever put them here. This is such a cool and interesting integration into this game, and I think this is one of the big reasons why this game in particular is so underrated. Night 2 is where this game really starts to get real, introducing the first main threat of the game, Busted. Inside of your monitor, you'll notice the left half that I haven't really mentioned. Well, I'm about to mention it. You'll notice that it only has 3 cameras, but don't let that fool you. Busted will move around the cameras, not only trying to get to you, but to get to the captives as well. If at any point you can't find him on your cameras, that means he's in your office. Your office, by the way, is another thing I've neglected to mention. There are 4 entrances to your office, 2 on each side. You have the 2 obvious hallways in front of you, and then the 2 holes in your walls to the sides of you. Busted is very quiet, so you will have to make sure you're tracking him. Once Busted enters your office, you will have to scare him away with the light. Now, you may think, like most FNAF games, that we'd be given a flashlight, but no, that'd be too easy. In Project Readjusted 3, you're given a fucking glow stick to defend yourself. You know, one of those crack and shake things? Yeah, that's our main means of defense. When Busted is in your office, you have to hold the glow stick on him to scare him away, but there's a catch. Your glow stick cannot be used for very long at all. It has a very short lifespan, so you have to check really fucking quickly. Obviously, if you don't, you'll die. But if you remember, I mentioned Busted being able to attack the captives as well. While watching Busted on your cameras, you may notice that on any of the 3, he may get a bit too close to some of the patient doors. If he does, that's how you know he's about to attack them. When you see him doing this, you must ring the bell on your desk. The noise will attract him to your office and away from the patients. Something super interesting about Busted attacking patients is that if he kills one, you don't lose, and it will actually make the remaining nights easier since you'll have less mouths to feed. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed, if a patient dies, they will never come back throughout the rest of the game. That means no more talking to them in the patient hub at the end of the nights. And of course, if you let all 3 patients die, then you will lose the game. This right here is one of the coolest mechanics I've ever seen in a FNAF game. Project Readjusted 3 is literally just being placed in a saw trap, really. In the post-night 2 minigame, we talk with the other guards about what we saw. They mentioned this is the second time this has happened. Walking up to the stage, we find another dead child, presumably killed by Buster. We're told to check the office for anything else, and we do. Upon finding nothing, we walk back, only to see the ghost of some unknown spirit that looks like Finn walking away.
I started seeing some weird things recently. They were purple weird things. It got closer as I blinded myself, but as I looked at it, it faded away. I don't know what to do. At least the leader himself isn't down here. He is very strict. He would be looking at me, making sure I was staying put and acting appropriately. He threatened to stop liquids from coming into my room if I didn't listen. He really wants us to go his way, so just send us supplies like he wants, at least when he is nearby. As long as he doesn't notice you aren't doing what he wants, he should be fine.
This place is a crazed house, and it's all your fault. I can't believe this! You better get out of here in the end, with me alive!
I've started hearing screams. It sounded like it came from a room adjacent to mine. Maybe I'm hallucinating. After all, we are under that old building. You know it had the fume problem, right? Surely you do. You used to work there. You told us all about you. My sister used to work there, but she hasn't touched it since. I think I've figured out why now. Just don't forget about your main threat, but don't let yourself get too paranoid about it. You got this.
On night 3, we get introduced to the last threat this game has to offer, the purple hallucinations, explained by the fact that there are strange fumes coming from the facility above. These hallucinations act as a nuisance, but a nuisance you're going to want to maintain. They can appear in any of your cameras or in your office, and they're very quiet. If they're on your cameras, you have to stare at them, and if they're in your office, you have to flash your glow stick at them. They will never kill you themselves, but they will scare the patients if you don't get rid of them. And if the patients get scared, they'll scream, and Busted will kill them. Not at all a difficult threat, but an annoying one nonetheless. The game doesn't really start to get too difficult yet at this point, so let's just move on to the post-night 3 minigame. In the post-night 3 minigame, we really just want to get out of the building at this point. We meet a guard who says that the crowd outside is still going spastic. As we try to walk outside, I'm assuming we start hallucinating? I'm not really sure because I have no idea what else I'm looking at could possibly even be. And the minigame comes to a close.
I'm too paranoid. You need to just get us out of here. The creatures are multiplying. Just more staring. Listen out for a squeal if something goes wrong over here. Those purple figures always come for us. Just make sure to get rid of them, please.
What's going on over on your end? I keep hearing such strange noises. If you want something out of me, you better keep me satisfied. I don't want whatever's coming for you near me. Ring the bell you were given if one of them is heading to my room, I want to ring that bell all the time, since it is causing noises, of course. Don't be stupid.
Hey, I still can't talk about what I know yet, but I think I know something that may help you in your endeavors. I know some of the quirks of that thing that is hunting you right now. It's very stealthy. You need to keep an eye on it all the time. It may hide in various spots, so make sure to be up to snuff with your surroundings. I don't know much about its chip data, though. I only ever overheard my sister read out some blueprints she picked up on her last workday a few years ago.
Night 4 doesn't introduce anything new, however I do want to take this time to mention a mechanic this game has that makes the entire experience way more difficult than it would normally be. Switching cameras. I know, that may sound like a mechanic that most people wouldn't even think twice about, but it's on this night that Busted can start to get pretty quick when moving around. So quickly moving through the cameras will become important. However, even though there's only 3 cameras, switching through them quickly can prove to be quite nerve-wracking. You cannot click any camera at any time. You can only move to cameras adjacent to the camera you're currently on, which means if you're on camera 1 and want to get to camera 3, you will first have to click on camera 2. Typically, this wouldn't be an issue, but you have to wait for a static animation to play each time you switch a camera before you can switch it again. Sure, the animation itself isn't very long, but when you have to switch as much as you do, that time will quickly add up. Overall, this is more of a nitpick than anything, but it is something I noticed during my playthrough, which you can see on my second channel, Dexter Black. The post-night 4 minigame is a little bit weird. We play as the ghost we saw at the end of the post-night 2 minigame. We walk around the building, talking to children and guards, hearing messages like, "I blame you," and "How can we punish you?" Eventually, we find the body of another child. We say that we can restore it, and upon coming into contact, we get the message, "You must kill them for me."
Just one more to go. Once you left last night, I heard a strange tumbling noise outside. It was metallic and heavy. I don't know what it was, but it may be coming for you this time. Nothing rings a bell, but every time I heard some alarm, it would scamper. I don't think whatever it was likes noise. You have something to play noise? Yes. Please use that to keep yourself safe, but only if it sounds like it's coming close. Using noise at the wrong time may cost you.
You better get me out of here ASAP! I'm done playing these games. If it weren't for that guy holding a pistol to my head for telling you my information early, I would have been long gone. Get it together! I'm tired of talking to you. Then get on with it!
I heard some ruckus outside, friend. I recognized the weird noise pattern from the debugging process from upstairs. Someone was altering the mascot's code. I know this just because of my sister's curiosity. She brought back some pink robot from her workplace to show me how messed up her work environment was. That thing was tossed in the end. It couldn't move regardless, but the same debugging process intro pattern she used was similar to the one I heard upstairs last night. I can only assume that the two systems are related, most likely by the same manufacturer. All I know is that those old models never liked being looked at after some wear and tear. We flashed a light on the pink thing and it sparked a little. It was a very strange find indeed. Well, I hope you can use this information to your advantage tonight. Let's hope we can see the sun once more.
Night 5 introduces one final threat. I know, guys, I've been lying constantly throughout this video, but I prefer to call it keeping you on your toes. The final threat introduced is Subject Model 3A, being another annoying character. He will wander around your cameras and you just have to make sure you're not looking at him. If you look at him for too long, I'm assuming you can guess what happens to you. Major bun pounding, salad tossing, you get it. Don't look at him. Overall, he really doesn't add anything new to the mix, really just making it more annoying to keep track of Busted. But if you can complete it, we'll move on to the final minigame. In this final minigame, we play as a child, walking around the restaurant following what appears to be the ghost of a child. We follow them into the back room where the first kid was killed and speak to one of the animatronics. They apologize for what they did to us, probably in reference to killing us. They said their chip made them do it and explained that someone else is pulling the strings and making the robots kill people. It ends off by telling us we will never see it again and to leave. Then the minigame comes to a close.
Andrew Vargas, it seems you have found your way. We cannot say we are surprised at your feat, especially considering your perseverance was quite equal to your past endeavors. You found your sources, exactly what you wanted. Though, did you ever think to look for more data you could use towards your search? The patients you have saved do not hold all of the information, but just enough for you to draw a plausible conclusion. Regardless of your intentions with the data you hold, your time here is over. You have what you came for, but do you feel empty with what you hold? That is a question that will be left in the air for you to grasp. For now, you may take your prized patients outside of this facility with you. Until you find your true desire and recollection, we thank you for playing our game.
I can't believe it! You did it? I'm free from this place? Oh, I must tell you what I know. Well, okay, I was a producer for one of the most popular animatronic performer shows a few years back. I was vital, but I got to the point where I knew too much, and that is how I wound up here. This man was someone I used to work with. He created these things for his own entertainment business, but he eventually took it too far. He created a powerful computer to control all of his creations from a distance, with whatever behavior he wanted. He always left his plans on his work desk, but one day he felt like something was off. Some grew suspicious of his projects, myself included, but I never took it as far as this one group of people. They were dedicated to finding his grand computer. They went as far as setting up hidden cameras around the building to track anything they could. Anything that could leave a trace back to its whereabouts. But they never found it, because the man attacked and killed one of them. I saw it on old discarded footage. That is all I know. I hope this helps you.
It took you long enough? Let's make this conversation quick. I was one of the construction employees set to renovate the supply and storage facility for future use. It was gonna be under some childish name like Busters, I think. I was the only one that showed up to the job early, like always. I got to one of the storage trucks I left outside, and that's where my life took a turn. They had a rotting corpse and dismantled robots in that truck, man. A rotting corpse. You could never understand how disgusting that was to see face to face. Sucker fell right out of the truck too, like it was last in line. It was in some blue wreck of a mascot suit. It had a camera stuffed in its mouth. It was horrible. I think you get it now. I went to go get my bag and quit my job, but some gray thing grabbed me and pulled me deeper into that building. Next thing you know, I was dangling for my life. Awesome, right? Well, it pulled me past some satellite. It was covered in those dumb white masks you've seen. The same one the guy is wearing. It's all some weird gimmick. But I know what that gimmick is for. That satellite was being used to get that white rabbit robot back from the depths of the forest, right off of Brickview Boulevard. It had to have been made for that. I'm no fool. I knew about that white monster rumor, and I even went hunting for it one time with the boys. It has to be linked. That's all I got for you. We better not come into contact like this again.
I have to owe you something for your determination, my friend. I'm honored. Oh, right, I do owe you something. I have something to tell you. Before this, I was an aspiring mechanical engineer. Machines have always enticed me, so I had been studying it for months prior to this incident. As you know, my sister had worked at that old supply and storage facility years ago. She was my main inspiration for this interest of mine. That night, when she came home with that pink robot, changed everything for me. We dug into the hardware of the robot ourselves. Our father had some spare tools in the garage, so we didn't have to rip into it to damage the thing even worse. We found a lot of weird oddities. One of the most obvious ones was its back. It had the tips of endoskeleton fingers buried in the suit piece, like it was torn apart by one of its own. Another one was its eye. We found a serial number printed in a fine black font face in the back of the eyelids, but it only routed to a 404 page on our home computer. Lastly, it had a code written on the inside of each of the suit parts. It read Model Pound 3C. I don't know the significance of the C. Maybe it was part of a trio, unless there are models with parts 3D or more. We extracted the chip from the robot, though. It was in a very rough condition, but it was somewhat intact. It even had a USB slot in it, which was extremely new at the time. We plugged the cord into our home computer, but it pulled up a ton of strange prompts. We clicked through all of them and found a folder with many text files inside of it. A lot of it was just a garbled mess, but some had what seemed to be addresses. They were impossible for us to decipher fully. Was this animatronic generation holding locations? That's the strange part. What's even more strange is that it had a file named task.txt amongst all the other distorted file names. We opened it, but for some reason the USB had ejected itself. We tried plugging it back into the computer, but it wouldn't pick it up again. All I was able to see before it disconnected was something along the lines of, "He must see what I have done, and maybe he will realize he should have stayed by my side. I know what I'm doing." That's all that I know, friend. See you on the other side.
Project Readjusted's story doesn't throw the answers at you. It gives you pieces, conversations, job descriptions, weird one-liners, and you're meant to piece together what was really happening behind the walls of Buster's Diner World. But once you line everything up, the picture is pretty clear. Two employees start a project they don't fully understand. It gets out of control, and one of them ends up paying the price for it. It all starts after Buster shuts down. The public thinks the place is done, the animatronics are boxed up, and everyone has moved on. but Diner World Entertainment hasn't. They're still in the building, still tinkering, and still trying to push something forward, something they only ever call the project. And at the center of it are two people, Andrew Vargas and his co-worker, Matthew. The two are exploring the closed building long after hours, checking the animatronics, looking through old hardware, and trying to locate something hidden deep inside the cast. Something the company wants extremely badly. A special chip connected to a hostile presence in the animatronics. They can't pull it out safely, they can't study it while it's roaming, and they can't risk handling it directly. So their entire plan is built around one thing: lure the entity into range, pull the chip, replace it, and get out. But they can't do it themselves. They need someone to sit in the office every night, act like a regular night guard, and unintentionally draw the animatronics towards them so Andrew and Matthew can track the patterns. That's where Hayden comes in. On paper, Hayden is just watching the cameras for 6 short nights. In reality, he's bait. Everything he sees, Buster, Glancer, Redeemer, all of it is part of a larger plan to drag this thing out. And for the most part, the plan works. The animatronics are active, the patterns are recorded, the project moves into its second stage. But then something happens that completely derails Matthew. Someone else breaks into the building. A man who isn't supposed to be there. Someone snooping around who gets far too close to whatever Andrew and Matthew are doing. The fandom calls him the spy, and Matthew panics. Instead of letting their secret get out, he kills the intruder. Not an accident, a choice. And it's the moment everything changes. Andrew is horrified, Matthew goes quiet, and from that point on, the two of them aren't on the same page anymore. Not long after that, Matthew disappears. No goodbye, no confession, no explanation. He's just gone. And Andrew is left with two things: a project he no longer trusts, and a friend who might have destroyed himself trying to finish it. When Project Readjusted 2 begins, we're not playing as Hayden anymore. We're someone closer to the company, a technician finishing their final assignment for Diner World Entertainment. This job isn't about survival, it's about data. Watching animatronic behavior, tracking motion patterns, feeding information back into whatever the project is turning into. And in the background of all of this, someone, heavily implied to be Andrew, keeps repeating the same thoughts. He's been gone for so long. I need answers. Where did he go? The entire game feels like Andrew trying to keep the company satisfied while quietly searching for any clue about Matthew's disappearance. Meanwhile, the animatronics are no longer just mascots. They're infested, corrupted, wired shut, and torn open. The prototypes that were experimented on long after Buster's closed. The project has clearly moved forward, and whatever they pulled from those animatronics is now being pushed into something else, something bigger, something human. And Andrew eventually gets the lead he's been waiting for, something that points away from Buster's, away from the diner entirely, and into a new location, a facility the company is tied to, a place where living subjects are being kept alive for testing. And to follow this trial, Andrew makes a deal, a job offer he can't refuse, something that promises answers about Matthew at a cost. That's where Project Readjusted 3 picks up. Andrew is now inside this medical facility, sitting in a monitoring booth, watching over patients who can't leave their rooms. His job is to keep them alive by sending supplies down long, empty hallways, making sure they don't lose consciousness, and trying not to get killed by something stalking him in the dark. A twisted, hulking version of Buster that shouldn't even exist in a place like this. But the deeper Andrew goes, the more obvious it becomes that this facility is just the project's final phase. The animatronics were only the beginning. The chip, the patterns, the experiments, all of it was leading to human testing. And somewhere inside this building, one of the patients isn't just another victim. He's the thing Andrew has been searching for since the moment Matthew vanished. Matthew didn't run. He didn't escape. He didn't move on. He was taken, absorbed into the same project he helped build. In Project Readjusted 3, Matthew is the subjected member, a living test subject altered by the very experiments he and Andrew once tried to control. And that's the real truth behind Project Readjusted. A company digs up something dangerous hidden inside their animatronics. 2 employees tried to pull off a secret extraction, someone dies, one of them vanishes, and years later the entire operation has grown into a human experimentation program, with Matthew trapped at the center of it, and Andrew desperately trying to undo the damage. This game never spells everything out, and the dev has even said the full story was never completely written down, but from what everything we do see, the trilogy comes down to a single idea. They started the project together, Andrew survived it, Matthew didn't. But as far as I could gather and as far as I'm aware, that's all Project Readjusted has to offer. There was supposed to be a final installment, Project Readjusted 4 Jet Black, but it was cancelled due to scheduling conflicts and the pair incident of Game Jolt, which I'm not going to dive into today. Maybe another time. Overall, I think each game in this series progressively got better and better. I think the story I was able to piece together is really interesting and very good, but I really wish it was more concrete so I didn't have to speculate as much as I did. Project Readjusted 3 is a phenomenal FNAF game and one of the most creative I've ever seen, and I highly recommend you give this series a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Project Readjusted is actually just a confusing dumpster fire? When I'm looking for FNAF games to cover, I usually look for a few baseline things, a few bare minimums. However, I do also look for games that have a bit of a goofy aspect to them. For example, the fact that Five Nights to Remember literally has Gooner bait built into it. I think stuff like that is pretty funny, so it's definitely something I look for when determining which games are going to get a Dexter White video. The game I've played recently started fairly normal with a gameplay loop I enjoyed. However, near the end, something happened that was so completely out of left field, I was at a loss for words. What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck? I'm very excited to talk about this game as I had a very fun time playing. So sit back and enjoy the ride as we dive nuts first into Animatronic Memories. Animatronic Memories starts as many official FNAF games do, that being showing a newspaper clipping asking for a security guard to monitor the building at night. Excited, jumping for joy, and kicking our feet and shit, we accept the offer and start our first night on the job. Entering our new office, we look around and notice that this place is clearly not very normal. Able to look in 3 directions, directly in front of us we have our computer, which lets us view our cameras. To our right we see the door to our office, and to the left we have a large window. Something I've never really understood about some buildings is why they have windows to other rooms in the building. I'm no architect, but that just doesn't really make sense. I don't know what possible purpose it could realistically serve. Also, this one has a fucking door on it. Fantastic. This game doesn't use a power system. Side note, I am so glad more FNAF games are choosing to move away from the power mechanic. I personally never found it very enjoyable, so I appreciate that many games are choosing to remove it so that your strategy can focus more on nerve control and skill rather than balancing a number. In a game where my only 3 actions are checking lights, closing doors, and watching cameras, boy do I sure love it when a central gameplay mechanic is limiting how much of those actions I'm allowed to do. It's so much fun. But anyways, since this game doesn't use power and there are 2 doors, I was curious how this game would pull that off. Let's begin with the window door. This one is very easy. If you're not holding the door down manually, it will automatically rise. Simple. Now let's turn our attention to the much more interesting door, the one that's actually a door. This door you'll notice has 3 fuses that connect to it. Just like Five Nights at Candy's, the longer you have a door closed, the higher the meter beneath it will rise. But unlike Candy's, this game actually used the mechanic in a much better way. If your meter is to increase fully, one of your fuses will break and the meter will reset. If you lose all 3 fuses, you will no longer be able to close the door, and the animatronics will very quickly close the gap on you and very quickly close your mouth so you don't make too much noise when they're obliterating your guts like iDubbbz obliterates his reputation. And that's really all you need to know to be able to play this game. All the mechanics are incredibly simple, which I think a lot of people could agree with me when I say that's a breath of fresh air, especially when it seems like every new FNAF release is just trying their best to get on the max mode list. But anyways, on to the threats that this night introduces, that being Bonnie and Chica. Let's pause for a moment. I want to really take the time to appreciate these character designs. Not only are they creepy, not only are they gorgeous, but they're also extremely uncanny. Looking at these characters just makes me uncomfortable in a very unique way. Especially Chica, like fucking ew. Anyways, let's start with Bonnie. Bonnie does exactly what you'd expect him to. He starts on the show stage, randomly walks around the cameras, and eventually lands at your door. Which again, with the way these characters look, it's just really fucking uncomfortable looking, which I love. All you need to do is close the door and you're a-okay. He'll pound on the door and you can reopen it. Chica is much the same, except she's fatter. Since these two are really just here to teach you the basics, beating the night is very easy. But before we can move on to night 2, we get the pleasure of talking about the very neat post-night minigames. After each night, we get to play a repairing minigame. I will say, technically speaking, these aren't really games at all, more just a holding down the mouse simulator, but I love little extra things like this. I would have enjoyed them in a game like Jolly as well, but unfortunately for that game, especially Jolly 3 Chapter 1, the minigames there take so fucking long, I'd rather rip out my own catheter than ever play them. However, in this game, they're short, sweet, and pretty fun for what they are. We're always tasked with replacing a piece of whatever animatronic is given to us. On night 1, that's Bonnie. The challenge of these nights, if you can even call it a challenge, come in the form of the character behind us, a ratchet-ass looking female balloon boy who probably has a clussy. What the fuck? Holy fuck! Throughout the minigame, you will hear her making noises behind you, slowly inching closer and closer. When she gets too close, you'll have to quickly whip around and fucking tase her, which I think is just awesome. Afterwards, she'll back up off you, and the cycle continues. Overall, not too difficult, but something extra that I think adds some spice to the game. Something you'll notice about the night sections is that they feel a lot shorter than most FNAF games, and that's because they are. But where the game lacks in length of night segments, it totally makes up for in the form of its 8-bit minigames. Usually, I fucking hate these, but I actually don't mind the minigames found here. Let's go over the post-night 1 8-bit minigame. The purpose of these minigames is exactly what you'd think, that being introducing lore and of course sliding in some secrets that allow for a different ending. This game only has 2 of those, thankfully, so I'll be going over the process of getting the true ending right now because no shit. In the first minigame, you play as Freddy. It seems that throughout these minigames, all the characters are preparing for a party. In each minigame, whichever character you play as will have a different task to complete. Freddy's task is being a fat lazy fuck and just talking to the other characters. Wow, Freddy, you're really taking pages out of your toy counterpart's book, huh? Fat lazy piece of shit. Yeah, watch all your coworkers do the work and still take the credit at the end, dick. Anyways, completing the task is obviously not what's important in these minigames, as if you are to complete the tasks, the minigame will end and you won't be able to collect the secret item you need for the true ending. What you should really focus on doing is finding a glitched sprite somewhere around the building. Very similar to going into the glitched areas in FNAF World. For Freddy, the wall will be glitched between 2 tables at the bottom of the map. Touching this glitched area will bring you back to some black space Amori type shit. In this black space, all you have to do is find a Freddy plushie and bring it to one of the crying children. After doing so, you'll be met with a black and white animatic, in which you're in the POV of a kid entering a Fazbear location before getting lured into the back room by a man in a bunny costume. Fuck that molester, bro! Get him out! No, get that fucker out of here, bro! Oh my god. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh great, I think we all know where this is going. Moving on to night 2, which introduces one new threat, that being Freddy himself, the hulking, titanous, gargantuan-ass bear. He attacks the door exactly like Bonnie and Chica, except he does something even more cancerous. he will also attack your door, except he moves through cameras a lot faster than Bonnie and Chica do. And once he reaches your door, he'll enter a lot faster than them as well. Instead of jump scaring you, he does like Phone Guy says and gets a little bit quirky, choosing to reach his hand into your fuse box and immediately break all of them, then jump scare you. Now, as cool as that is, I do have to ask the question, if he kills you after doing this, then why doesn't he just kill you? Don't get me wrong, I love little details like this and I'm not necessarily complaining, but it's a genuine question. I'm assuming the dev just didn't want to have 3 characters appear to do the exact same thing, even though, to be fair, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy all end up doing the exact same thing, just at various speeds. This is something that could be attributed to laziness, but you have to answer whether you think it is for yourself, and I'll be talking about it a little bit later. Post-Night 2 repair needs you to fix up Chica and her cupcake. Ew! Ew! Bro, this bitch is disgusting, dude. Again, this is much the same as the last one. Tootsie, which, yes, by the way, is that clown's name, is more aggressive, but it's still pretty easy to deal with. However, the Post-Night 2 minigame is different, and that makes me excited, because, would you believe me if I said this, I will actually enjoy talking about the lore in this game. I know, crazy. Turns out, when I'm told a story where I don't have to spend a billion fucking hours searching for answers, that actually makes it fun. Anyways, in this minigame you play as Bonnie, and the goal of the minigame is to do some sweeping, aka manual labor, something Toy Freddy would avoid at all costs because he's unemployed. But fuck actually doing the task at hand, that's for retards. Instead, we're going to warp the fabric of space and time by touching a busted up table and be teleported directly to hell. Doesn't that sound way better than doing the everyday tasks of a customer service job? Awesome. Well, once you enter black space, all you need to do is find a Bonnie plush and once again give it to one of the crying children. Once again, afterwards we get a cutscene where we're in the POV of a child, this time being bullied by some fat-ass children. Have you guys ever realized that like every bully that's ever existed is about the size of a Ford F-150? Whatever. We get saved by the man in the bunny suit and then immediately get betrayed and murdered. That's right, kids. Not only can you not trust your peers, you can't trust adults either. I guess we should all just give up. Night 3 time. What's the new threat introduced here? And will it have a different mechanic than everything else we've seen so far? This night introduces a fan-made character, something I don't often see when fan games use the official characters. This character's name is Anne, a female Foxy equivalent. Give me Rule 34. What? Who said that? Anyways, she begins on the Pirate's Cove camera next to Foxy. She will, just like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, move through phases on the camera until she's ready to attack. When she does, you'll be able to see her run off of the Pirate's Cove camera, wherein she will then book it to your window. When she arrives, you will have to quickly close it until you hear her leave. So, hey, something new, kind of, not really, it's just another door, but I guess that's better than nothing. Oh, did I mention Foxy also activates on this night? Well, he does. Wanna know what he does? Disappointingly, it's the exact same thing Anne does, just a lot slower. Isn't that weird? The fast-running Five Nights at Freddy's character is now slow. Like, I know he has a peg leg, so that's obviously making him move slowly, but like, goddamn, why'd you have to butcher my boy like that? He did not deserve it. But yes, as I've said, Foxy does the exact same thing Anne does. I will say that because they move at different speeds, there are some very rare instances where it can lead to some stress while watching their timings, but the odds of this happening are pretty slim, so you probably will never even experience it. That's honestly my biggest problem with this game. It looks amazing, I'm interested in the story, the sound design is fantastic, and you even managed to make me enjoy the 8-bit minigames. But this game has introduced 5 characters so far, and yet somehow, with 5 characters, there's only 2 mechanics to deal with all of them, and both of those mechanics are closing a door and waiting a few seconds. I've tried my best to think about how I can view this positively, but I really just can't. Sure, I personally like it when FNAF games aren't too hard and I can beat them without too much strain, but I can easily see how this game's mechanics could be a turn-off for some people. There's just not enough happening to keep a lot of people interested. We have one character to talk about who switches up the mechanics a little bit, but I still don't even think that's enough, especially given the time this game was released, that being February of 2025. You might question my complaining of this. Dexter, the original Five Nights at Freddy's only had one mechanic, two if you're being generous and calling Foxy a different mechanic. And to that statement, I'd agree. However, there are 2 points that I have to give to that argument. Yes, FNAF 1 only had 2 mechanics, closing the door and stalling Foxy. However, the first thing you need to acknowledge is that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was released in 2014 and was a pioneer of an entire genre. It has been 11 years since that game's release. I think it's reasonable to expect newer games in the same genre to have evolved, and for the most part, they totally have. Look at The Joy of Creation, Tycoon Sons Lumber Co., Showman's Awakening. All of these games have added so much to the central idea that is Five Nights at Freddy's. This game just doesn't do that. On top of that, let's dive a little bit deeper into Five Nights at Freddy's 1 for a moment. While yes, the only real mechanic in that game is closing the doors for defense, we need to talk about the synergy between Freddy and Foxy. Foxy requires you to look at your cameras to stall him. If you don't, while yes, you can close the door to keep him out, with every pound your door will lose power dramatically, which incentivizes you to look at him. It seems Scott saw a potential bore in this design, so he made Freddy work the same as the others, but with a twist to synergize. Freddy can't enter your office while your cameras are down, and he's the only animatronic that will never move backwards, meaning that once he's at your door, he will stay there. He's also the only door animatronic that will not break your buttons, so you don't have to close the door while you're in your office. However, on the contrary, he doesn't work the same way the other 2 door animatronics do. You can't see him when the light is on, and at the same time, Chica can be at your door while Freddy is also at it because of this. Because of this mechanic, it's very likely that Freddy will be at your door for most of the night, especially on nights 5 and 6. Since the game forces you to check your cameras to stall Foxy, this leads to you needing to close your door before you check the cameras to not have Freddy enter. This is a good synergy between 2 characters and is why I wouldn't complain about this in that game. In Animatronic Memories, however, there is no difference between characters that attack the same way like this. Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica all do the exact same thing. Anne and Foxy also both do the exact same thing. Sure, Freddy may break your fuses first, but that doesn't change the fact that he's still doing the exact same thing. Just going to your door and killing you. He just happens to have an animation before that happens. Now, is this a bad thing? I think that's more up to a case-by-case basis. While yes, I do feel that it's boring, I still had plenty of fun playing this game and I would still recommend it to people. I just think it's obviously important to point out flaws like this when analyzing a game. Sorry about that tangent. Moving on to the repair minigame. In this one, we're asked with fixing up Freddy, who has some insane crow's feet. Like, holy shit, this guy's old as fuck. But this doesn't change anything from the last 2, so let's move on to the 8-bit minigame. In this minigame, we play as Chica, tasked with collecting ingredients for a cake. Shut the fuck up! I don't care about your bitch-ass task! Let's go to hell! Oh, but before we do that, I should mention that there's an endoskeleton that starts spawning, and if you touch it, you die. So, like, don't do that. Anyways, once we're back in black space, you once again have to get a plushie. This time, doing so is a bit different. You'll see several eyes on the floor. Interacting with them will cause them to close. Once you close all of them, the plushie will spawn and you can give it to the child. After doing so, we're shown another cutscene, this time in the POV of a child who wants a prize from the prize counter. The man in the bunny suit gives us a Chica plush before inviting us to the back room. Once inside, he stabs us, and the last thing we see is our Chica plushie on the floor as we bleed out. So, that's sad. Dude, that's fucking cool as shit, bro. That's cool. No, not her, please! Please, don't ruin your game. Please don't do it, please. Please, I'm begging you, don't ruin your game. Don't add a music box. Please, 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 for the love of God, don't do it. Anyways, night 4 time. This introduces Harley. What? Who the fuck is Harley? Well, the marionette, of course, duh. The marionette thankfully doesn't work in the way you think she does. No music box to wind because the developer of this game isn't Satan. The marionette has 2 different ways of attacking you, something I think is awesome. I think it's super cool when characters can do more than one thing, and I think it's something I'd like to see more often. Her first attack consists of her attempting to shut down the cameras. When she leaves her box, the camera has a chance to glitch. If it does, you have to quickly find her on one of the cameras and press a newly appearing sound disruption button to make her fuck off. The other option of attack is through your vent. I didn't even tell you guys that we had a vent because it's never really important. Instead of glitching the cameras, when Harley leaves, she can make a bell noise as well. When you hear that, you will need to quickly check the kitchen camera and shock her ass, because once she enters it, you're gonna be completely done for, as there's no way to stop her once she enters. Oh hey, something new! Fortunately, sound cues were added so she's not completely AIDS, but if you can beat her, which shouldn't be too difficult, we move on to the repair section where we have to fix Foxy, who, holy shit, has seen better days. God damn, what'd they do to you? First a peg leg and now they filleted you? What the fuck? But after that, we can move on to the 8-bit minigame. Hooray! In it, we play as Anne. Who gives a fuck what the task is? Let's go to the black space using another table. Hooray! This black space section is confusing. So confusing, I actually don't even know how I completed it. Basically, as you walk through black space, you'll see several character symbols on the ground. Then, at the end, you can find several symbols that you can change into a sort of code. You might think, oh hey, just input them in the order you saw them. That's what I thought too, but at least when I was playing, that was seemingly impossible. Then I noticed that a few of the squares had a symbol that no other square had, so I tried to see if each square had a unique symbol, but they didn't. Then I noticed there was this dark rabbit symbol that didn't appear anywhere else in black space, so I tried to input that into each square, but that also didn't work because not every square had one. I'm so serious, I have no idea what the intended puzzle is here. I ended up just randomly guessing it, and eventually I got it. I guess set that to Foxy. Set this to Bonnie. Set this to Chica. I literally do not know what I did. I promise you, I literally do not know what I did, but I did it. If you guys have any idea what the intended solution to this puzzle is, please let me know in the comments. But once you get the plush and give it to the child, we take another look at another cutscene. This time, the man just ganks some random ass kid who was just standing there minding their own business and murders them. No motive. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to bother talking about Night 5 since it's just a harder version of Night 4. Additionally, there's no repair section after this night, only being one final 8-bit minigame. In this one, we play as Foxy. Going into black space, we can place all the plushies we've collected on podiums, which will give us the Foxy plush. Placing it on the final podium will spawn one final child and the minigame will end. Being tossed into one final cutscene, we see another kid get shanked to death. Amazing and deserved. Shouldn't have been a child, dumbass. But what about Night 6? Well, of course, as usual, we were told not to come back tonight, but we said fuck it, we ball, and decided to come back anyways. Nobody was present, we enter the office, but get a strange feeling that we're being watched. Night 6 is just a harder version of Night 5, but however, if you got the bad ending by not collecting the plushies in the black space and the 8-bit minigames, this night will be completely different, but we'll cover that later. After completing the night, a literal masterpiece of a cutscene plays out. Seriously, I can't undermine how amazing this cutscene really is. It starts with us standing in front of the arcade machine. Our suspicions are confirmed when Afton comes up behind us and fucks our shit up, knocking us out. Soon after, the arcade game glitches as fuck, and all of the animatronics walk into the back room. And let me tell you, they're itching to serve up a knuckle sandwich. Jesus Christ. Cut that out, that's corny as fuck. Afton pulls out a shocking device to fuck with the robots, which shuts them down. Thinking he's won, Afton lets his guard down. That's when the spirits of the children attack him. They loosen a pipe on the wall and break it off. They shove Afton onto it, and as the pipe impales his chest, his lungs fill with blood. He slowly dies, staring at the ones whose lives he so easily took. We wake up to see the souls disappearing, finally able to rest. We leave the building, and Animatronic Memories comes to a close. That is, if you chose to do the true ending. And even though that final cutscene is actually a cinematic masterpiece, I actually think the bad ending is more enjoyable. Why? Well, if you don't collect the plushies, when you re-enter the building on the overtime night, instead of entering the office, we go into an unknown room with several bags laid on the floor. Opening them up, we find the actual fucking remains of the children. What the fuck? This game is so cool. Caught off guard, Afton kills us. However, before we can pass on, a shadow rabbit pulls us into the darkness and we enter another fucking dimension. What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck? That's right, the overtime night in this game is different depending on which ending you get, and goddamn, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. You'll notice that this office is set up in the same way as the normal office, having 3 directions to look in, one your desk, another your door, and the final being your window. Let's go over each threat because there's a few of them. Starting with the shadow rabbit, you'll have to constantly watch your cameras in case he appears on one of them. When he does, you have to press the big goofy ass red button on your desk to make him disappear. And that's really it for him. And that's actually the only reason you ever have to check the cameras. So, how do the other characters add anything of substance? I'm glad you asked. I'm gonna tell you because it's a fucking review, dumbass. You'll also notice on your desk you have 2 masks. Now, if you're anything like me, seeing these 2 things scare you a little, but I promise, the mechanic with these 2 isn't ass at all. Occasionally, you'll see either a fucked up baby clown face or a Ballora looking face appear on your static monitors. Whichever face you see is the mask you will have to put on until the face goes away. Bada bing, bada boom, that's another threat down. Now, the main threats we're being attacked by in the bad ending are the souls of the children, because by not collecting the plushies, we've basically been neglecting them. At your door is where Bonnie attacks. The door starts closed and is closed most of the night, with you actually not even being able to open it. Occasionally, Bonnie will attempt to force it open, and flashing your light at him will cause the door to close. Leave it open for too long, and I bet you can guess what'll happen. Moving back to your desk is where Chica will attack. Chica herself doesn't kill you, but she can be a pain in the ass if you're not ready for her. Right before the hour is about to turn, she'll reach onto your desk to pause your clock. Click her and she'll leave. But you have to be fast. If she manages to pause your clock, you'll have to complete that hour again, making the overall night last longer. This is honestly a mechanic I think is pretty damn interesting. While yes, it's annoying if you don't catch her, the way to beat her is easy enough that it isn't bullshit to deal with. Easy mechanic with a horrific consequence. I love it. Moving to your window is where Foxy and Ann are. Sadly, once again, both do the exact same thing. Occasionally, they'll pound on your window, which is now boarded up by metal bars. All you have to do is hold your flashlight on them and they'll eventually leave. Very basic. Once again, literally identical to Bonnie, just in a different location. Shine your flashlight, they leave. The final threat is Freddy, who, once again, like Chica, can't kill you by himself, but is a big annoyance. Occasionally, he'll jump in front of your face and block your view. You'll have to spam the spacebar to pull him off you and dropkick him through a chain link fence. But after that, those are all the threats. If you can manage to hold off long enough, you'll enter one last cutscene, albeit not as grandiose as the true endings. You manage to escape the grasp of the souls. As you attempt to pass on, you look back and see the souls desperately trying to pull you back into the darkness. Escaping the souls, leaving them behind to suffer forever. You move on to the afterlife and finally fucking die. So yeah, very stark contrast between the 2 endings. I actually felt like there was a major difference, unlike in most FNAF games, which I can definitely appreciate. But with that, as far as I'm aware, that's all Animatronic Memories has to offer. Overall, I think Animatronic Memories is an enjoyable experience. I only got one ending in my playthrough, and I probably wouldn't want to get the other. Not because I don't want to see it, but because of how lackluster the gameplay loop is. With there really only being 2 mechanics, closing doors and shocking the puppet, I don't want to discourage anyone from giving this game a try. It's fun to play, it's an engaging story that's easy to follow, and that is something I can definitely appreciate. But what do you think? Do you agree with me? Or do you think that this game is actually perfect in every way?
Have you ever been on acid? If the answer is yes, don't admit that and incriminate yourself. Instead, I'd like to ask all you acid doers a question. Have you ever heard of Five Nights at Wario's? I personally have never done acid, but after playing this game, I can only imagine that's what it's like.
So by the end of this video, let me know. Five Nights at Wario's is a FNAF fan game made by WWW Wario. I'll be referring to him as Andy since that's his name. I'll be totally transparent, I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay in this game, however, the story is what really interests me. So while yes, I will be talking about the game mechanics just like I would with any game, I want to put some emphasis on the story as well, since it might honestly be better than Five Nights at Freddy's story-wise. Considering you're counting everything after FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, the games after that make me want to slam my dick in a car door. Before I start, however, let me take a look at how the news video's doing. Thanks for that. My sub count more than doubled since my last video was uploaded, and it's almost to 8,000 views as of writing this. I appreciate it greatly. Also, thank you all for the comments you left. I tried responding to most of them, and if I couldn't think of a good response, I tried to heart them to let you know I saw. Also, the question I asked in the last video was, what's your favorite FNAF fan game and why? My favorite comment was this one from EmberFox4951. They mentioned Day Shift at Freddy's, the game I almost made a video about before deciding to cover Five Nights at Fuckboys. If you're interested in being at the beginning of one of my videos, stick around to the end of this video where I'll be asking another question. Anywho, let's get into the video. Five Nights at Wario's begins with a cutscene. We're told that a few years ago, Wario and Waluigi opened a fast food factory together, and one day when they went into work, they never came back out and haven't been seen since. Years have passed, and now the government is reopening the factory, and we're hired for an overnight security guard. I already have a few issues. One, what is a fast food factory? Fast food and factory are two words that don't mix with one another. Fast food implies that you get your food, fast. But factory implies that the food is packaged and sent to other companies to sell. Maybe they're producing the meat or the boxes and shipping it to other restaurants so that they can cook and use it? That's the only thing that could make sense to me. And two, the government reopened it? Why would the government reopen a factory that makes fast food products? That doesn't make much sense. Who's in charge? The president? That just doesn't sound quite right to me. Anyways, we're loaded in and get our first sights on the office. And well, let's just say, compared to the office we covered last time, this ain't Van Gogh. You'll be able to tell most of the sets in this game were taken straight from Google and blown up to fit the screen rather than being modeled and rendered from Blender. Most of the art is very pixelated and sometimes it's hard to make out what some objects are. Like, I cannot for the life of me figure out what this thing on the shelf is. I'm thinking it's a toilet facing left because I have no idea what else this could possibly be. Regardless, the gameplay is almost the same as Five Nights at Freddy's 1. You have a door on each side of you, although the one on the right is technically a window, but it functions the same way a door does. You have cameras that let you see around the building, and one camera that only has audio. You also have a computer in front of you, but that won't be important until Night 4. On Night 1, Wario and Waluigi are active characters. They will move around the cameras until making it to your left door. Both Wario and Waluigi use your left door and never switch. Both make a sound cue as they reach your door, letting you know that they're there. I have a huge problem with these sound cues. It was never a problem on this night and only ever became a problem on Night 5. I don't think the sound cues work as they're supposed to in this game. On Night 5 there are several, and I do mean several, times where Wario or Waluigi would jump scare me even though no sound cue was ever played. This led to me having to develop a new strategy I'll get into later. Something you might notice while looking through the cameras is how rancid a lot of the character renders look. This game did my boy Waluigi, and especially my boy Luigi, so dirty. I'll get into Luigi later, but just look at Waluigi. What happened to his arms? Why are they longer than the massive shit I took earlier? The designs of these characters, I feel, were supposed to make them unsettling, but instead, I found myself laughing whenever I caught a glimpse of a new render. I don't think anyone is scared of this. On Night 2, we're introduced to Luigi. Technically, Peach can also spawn on this night, but it's super unlikely, so I won't talk about her yet. Luigi's design makes me feel really gross. For some reason, Andy decided to make it look like his nose was stuffed with a 30-pound dumbbell. Look at that! What is that? If he's supposed to be dead, I get why. His big-ass nose probably snapped his neck into 2 clean cuts. I cannot take him seriously. Trying to put that aside, Luigi's mechanic is super simple to deal with. He'll move around the cameras, but instead of going to your left door, he'll go to your right. he also makes a sound cue, and you're supposed to be able to tell the difference based on what kind of sound you hear. If you hear a door creaking sound, that's how you know either Wario or Waluigi is at your door. And if you hear footsteps, that's how you know that Luigi is at your door. Again, Luigi only ever attacks at the right door, so when you hear the footsteps, you know just to check that one. But of course, on night 5, there were several occasions where Luigi would attack me with no sound cue whatsoever. So I'm not totally sure what's going on, and I'll talk about it more when we get to night 5. But before we can do that, we need to talk about night 3. Night 3 introduces Peach. Peach works in the exact same way all the other characters do. She'll move around the cameras until she comes to your door. Just like Luigi, she'll only ever attack the right door. She also has a sound cue that is footsteps, but unlike Wario and Waluigi, you'll be able to tell whether Luigi or Peach is attacking, because Peach's footsteps don't sound nearly as heavy as Luigi's, and it sounds like she's wearing heels. I bet you could guess that she also causes major problems on night 5, and you'd be right. Night 4 introduces the last main character from this game, Mario. Mario is a character that finally does something different. You never see Mario on your cameras as far as I'm aware. Instead, when you flip down your camera, there's a chance he can appear on your computer screen. While on your screen, he has a few states he can go through, each getting closer and closer to you as you close your monitor. If he gets too close, the next time you put your camera down, he'll be in your office like the withered animatronics from FNAF 2. When he appears, all you have to do is raise your camera, and he'll reset. Now, you might be asking yourself, if Mario only ever gets close when you open your cameras, and you just said Mario is the last main character in the game, and all the other characters have sound cues to let you know they're at the door, then why would you ever open the camera in the first place? Well, I have an answer for you. You don't. Yeah, that's right. There is no reason to ever lift up your cameras throughout the whole game. There's no Foxy. Mario is the closest thing to Foxy, but it's in reverse, so it doesn't even matter. As long as you're listening for sound cues and closing the doors in time, Mario can never attack you, making nights 1 through 4 an absolute cakewalk. Bringing up the fact that you really only need sound, Chicken Ninja 42, if you're looking for another challenge, play 5 Nights at Wario's without sound. I dare you, see what happens. But now we need to talk about Night 5. Oh boy, Night 5. How I hate you. Alright, so, Night 5 adds no new characters. It just increases the difficulty of the 5 characters we've seen already. Oh my god, this night makes me want to die. To start, the characters seem to move at a rate so fast that the moment the night starts, they're already at my door. The reason you'd think that? Well, you hear their sound cues right away, but then you check the doors and nobody is there, so you don't close the door. You sit there in silence waiting for another sound cue. Eventually you hear one, so you go to check your lights. Guess what, fucker? Your buttons are jammed. Why are your buttons jammed, you ask in frustration? Because unbeknownst to you, there have been characters camping your doors for the last 30 seconds, and you didn't respond and close the doors fast enough. Why didn't you close the door fast enough, you ask? Because they didn't make another fucking sound cue. They just appeared out of thin air. Leave the package at the door, because I won't be there to sign for my ass being handed to me. Now you might be wondering, if you don't ever have to lift up the cameras, couldn't you just in theory sit in your office and not do anything? In FNAF 1, characters can't jump scare you even if your buttons are jammed, so long as you don't raise your camera. That's why Foxy's there. But there is no regular Foxy in this game, so what's the problem? Well, the characters in this game don't give a shit if your monitor is up. If your door is open and you don't close it, they're walking their happy asses right in to slap you right across the face with their crank. When I tell you that this night took me over an hour to complete, I'm not lying. I had to look on YouTube for a new strategy because these characters don't make the sound cues they're supposed to. I ended up having to constantly open the camera and check the 2 cameras that were right next to my door and dealing with Mario as normal. After completing Night 5, we walk out of the factory before getting shown an end screen with a question mark after the word end. Then we're thrown into Night 6. Does Night 6 add anything new or unique to the gameplay loop? No. No, it doesn't. It's just a harder version of Night 5. Nothing much to talk about. After completing it, we see a final end screen telling us to never enter the factory when it's closed again. And the game is finally finished. Of course, there's a custom night, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't add anything else. Just like most FNAF games, this game has phone calls at the beginning of each night. On night 1, we're told that we're just supposed to watch the factory for break-ins and to make sure the machines are working as intended. Which, if we're watching to make sure the machines work, does this imply that the factory has no human workers? Maybe. We're also told about a rumor. Apparently something happened 7 years ago and we're not supposed to think or worry about it. I don't know why he told me about it if I wasn't supposed to think about it, but whatever, I suppose. On night 2, the phone guy brings up the rumor again before quickly brushing it off. Then he tells us that 7 years ago, the whole gang that worked at the factory went missing and was never found. A year later, a woman was passing by the factory and claimed she saw Wario in one of the windows of the factory. And a year after that, another man saw the same thing. At first, I thought the rumor was that the characters went missing or something related, but after re-listening to this call, it's very clear that the workers going missing and this rumor are two different things. Something to put in the back of your mind. Night 3 is really where we start to get some lore drops. We're told that 7 years ago, Wario and Waluigi went to work and never came back out. Mario and Luigi, concerned, went to check on them. Upon entering the building, they also never came back out. Peach, who was worried about her boyfriend Mario, went into the factory to look for him, and she, as I'm sure you could guess, also never came back out. After this, apparently some unknown man entered the factory, and he too never emerged from the factory again. We're told that the factory had a costume for mascot purposes, which alone doesn't make sense, because why would a factory have a mascot? But putting that aside, the day the unknown man went into the factory, the costume disappeared and has never been found. Afterwards, a rumor was started that the factory was cursed and it finally closed down. Wow, a lot of exposition for one phone call, I know, but now at least we finally have a lead to go off of. We now know that the rumor from earlier is that the factory was cursed, and I'm willing to bet it has something to do with the unknown man that went into the factory and the costume disappearing. On this night, the phone guy also mentions to us that the machines in the factory have randomly been turning off and on at night. Very odd. Let's keep that in mind. On night 4, we're told that it should be our final shift for a while at the factory, as they will be closing temporarily. We're told the machines won't stop randomly turning off and on, and that one of the employees found 2 teeth in one of the rooms. The phone guy asks us if we've seen anyone walking around, because he says he's been hearing voices while at work. He claimed to hear a voice saying, "Stop him," and "Help me." Apparently the voice sounded like Luigi's. My guess is this unknown man that went into the factory is the man that Luigi was talking about, but that may be subject to change. Night 5 is the super spooky, bone-chilling, ass-quaking phone call. Phone guy questions why we're at the factory even though it's closed, and there actually doesn't seem to be a good answer for that. We're told we're stuck inside until the doors open at 6 a.m. and that the phone guy is coming to try to open the doors for us earlier. He tells us he read something about souls. Apparently, if a soul seeks revenge, they can become angry and confused, and sometimes even take over their old bodies again. This would explain why we could see the characters walking around the factory. Phone guy tells us that Wario and Waluigi had a secret recipe that they came up with years ago, and he thinks that there may be people breaking into the factory to steal the recipe. We're also told that these souls will become hostile towards things that are similar to what caused them to die. Which brings the question, if the characters are hostile towards us, does that mean that another worker, possibly a security guard, is what killed them? And is this unknown man that entered the building the one who did it? The phone guy gets to the door of the factory before our line cuts to static and we hear this. If you didn't understand what was said there, the voice said, "We shall avenge whoever did this to us." It's unclear who exactly is saying this, but now we know that these souls are pissed. Most likely, rightfully so. Night 6 has no phone call and neither does Night 7, so this is what we're left with. 7 years ago, for some unknown reason, when Wario and Waluigi went into work, they never returned. Mario and Luigi went to check on them, but went missing, and Peach went to look for Mario, but went missing as well. An unknown man entered the factory the same day the mascot costume went missing, and the factory closed due to a rumor that it was cursed. 7 years later, the government reopens the factory. The machines keep turning off and on, likely from the souls of the old workers, and teeth are found in one of the rooms. The souls are wanting to avenge what killed them and are seemingly upset at us, leading us to believe that we look like or are similar to whatever killed them. That's a big piece of food to bite off, but it's definitely a start. I suppose now it's important to mention 2 other characters that appear in this game. Sometimes, on occasion, when you look at the bathroom camera, which is the camera with only audio, you can see flashes of a weird-looking version of Wario. That character is Wario Man. Wario Man is almost undoubtedly the costume that was mentioned in the phone calls, as I have no idea what else it could be. The other character is something I only saw once in my entire playthrough. One time I flashed my light at the left door and saw this. I have no idea what that is, but I'll just refer to it as Entity for the sake of convenience. I'd want to guess that the Entity is the unknown man, but for some reason I'm leaning against that idea, but I could be wrong. Where we're at now, I'm guessing that the day the characters went missing were actually all the same day, and the unknown man went into the factory to look for the recipe. While he was there, I think he got into the Wario Man costume and killed everyone inside out of fear that the police would be called. But that's all I've got for now. And with that, that's all I've got for this video. If you're as captivated by this story as I am already, let me know in the comments and I can start cooking up another Wario video. I'd never post the same topic back to back, so the next Wario video won't be next. I plan on doing a community poll for my next video, so be on the lookout for that so you can get your vote in. I'd also like to say thanks to the Galaxy TG, as they're the person I took the gameplay for this video from, as the video I filmed got corrupted. The question of the video is, which Five Nights at Wario's 1 character is your favorite, and why? I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!